want to make sure that I acknowledge the sponsor of the show, Tiege Hanley, because Tiege Hanley sent me this new pack. They sent me the new Tiege pack, so I just literally pulled the paper out, got it out of the mail, and I started going through it, and I got a little bit more excited than I should. You know what I'm saying? So they did send me the Tiege pack, and I don't even know what this is yet. So I'm assuming this is what you get when you first order your Tiege, and I don't know what this is. Oh, this is dope. This is absolutely dope. Is this a nail kit? Ladies, get this for the fellas. Fellas, don't wait for the ladies to get it for you. This is free. This just comes with it. 30% off your first order, plus 20% off for life. Literally. Oh, snaps. I didn't know that they were sending it like this. Real talk. So this is the nail kit that they sending you. All right. So now you ain't looking like a dusty. This is a free gift straight from Tiege for the people that ordered the Tiege. They got the small one for the little hands like mine's. They got the big joints for your toenails. And then they got the joints at the bottom too. You know what I'm saying? For y'all that's a little bit more crustier than usual. All right, so that's one of the free gifts that Tiege got inside of the pack. And then, what is this? It says, squeeze a quarter-size amount of Tiege Hanley body wash on the center of the wet bristles. Lather, scrub, rinse, and repeat for the perfectly satisfying wash every time. So that's inside of there also, right? Ooh, I can get my rubber ducky on right here. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Tiege for sending me that uncomplicated skincare for men. And then what we got in here? We got the actual Tiege pack, right? So this is the normal Tiege pack, but then they gave me the supersized joint for the people. They wanted me to show the people exactly what they got when they ordered that first Tiege pack, when you're getting your 30% off your first order, and then you get your free gifts. You get 2 free gifts, and then the 20% off for life. So the 20% off for life is a new thing. And dang, I ain't even got my keys on me to open this up. Maybe I can use the little nail clipper thing. I ain't got to buy no nail clipper for my new joint downtown. And then you get all of the washes, all of the scrubs, all of the AM, the PMs, and all of that stuff. So you got the whole thing inside of there for you to make sure you take care of yourself. But you got to make sure you take care of it every day. Right? We don't want to miss days. We don't want to be looking like dusties. It does not absolve you from being able to make sure that you brush your teeth. Brush your teeth. It don't fix the teeth problem. Don't fix you ironing your clothes. Don't fix you being able to take care of your business. But it absolutely makes sure that your skin is phenomenal, even when you go in between shaves. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Tiege Hanley. We absolutely appreciate you. Thank you for continuing to hold us down. I might do an official Tiege commercial, but I like just talking authentically to the people. I like giving the people the authentic look of what it is that you're dealing with, and I want you to hear from me personally, because anybody can do that little pitch and they can make some little videos, but very few of us can actually speak to the products of exactly what it is that you're supposed to use. So yeah, Tiege Hanley, 30% off your first order, and then 20% off for life. That's the Anton Daniels pack, 20% off for life. Using any other Tiege pack, make sure that you go ahead and let that go. And make sure you tap into the link that's in the description and take care of it, all right? What's going on? Is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of the Millionaire Morning Show. I am your host, Anton Daniels. What is wrong with y'all? What is wrong with y'all? When y'all send me some crazy stuff, I'm going to start having a conversation about it. What up? I just do. I got to have a conversation about some of the stuff that I see, because I just seen this. I'm coming in, and shout out to everybody that's here on the Millionaire Morning Show. It is Mondays, boy. It's Monday, August 19th, 2024, year of our Lord. You guys are absolutely insane. 100% insane. What up? It was an interesting weekend, fun weekend. Did Afro Nation was here in Detroit, and so that was absolutely awesome. Met a lot of people, kicked it with a lot of people. Shout out to everybody that was at Afro Nation. A lot of people that was here. It was crazy. It was lit. It was dope. I also bought some real estate Friday afternoon, so was a part of the county tax auction and was able to go and check out some of those properties that I paid for yesterday. So those was absolutely great purchases, and so I'm looking forward to just continuing to run it up and take care of business. What's going on? How y'all feel this morning? Is everybody in a good space? Everybody in a good space? Let me get some of this, some of these super chats out of the way and these cash apps. Country Boy Finesse says, "What up? Great content and informative words." Thank you, Country Boy. I appreciate you for looking out for me. Jamal Fowler in the building says, "Today is my birthday." Yo, happy birthday! Another day around the sun. That's always a blessing. Shout out to everybody that is celebrating birthdays in the month of August. Great time to be alive. There's never a better time to be alive. The most important time for us to get engaged, but definitely a great time to be alive. So shout out to you. Congratulations. Also want to give a shout out to Class E Beats, my rich friends. Shout out to my rich friends. Class E Beats says, "Good morning, AD and Bag Chasers. I wanted to thank you for being the picture of consistency and inspiration to me. You've given me the blueprint for success, and I appreciate the wisdom you give every day we up." Shout out to you. Thank you, Class C Beats. Thank you for continuing to rock out with me, and I rock out with you also. Thank you for being a bag chaser. If y'all not a part of the bag chasers, link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. We got Stock Club this week. Excited for Stock Club on Friday. So we're going to do them on Fridays. Stock Club this week. I'm looking forward to it. I want to give a shout out to my guy, Mike That Dude, on Cash App. I also want to give a shout out to ESDC Easy Money. Shout out to Easy Money in the building. And a shout out to Christopher Jackson says, "Keep up the good work. Thank you, my friend, for supporting the platform." Let me show y'all something really quickly. I don't like this. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Look at this. Look at what y'all be sending me, man. Look at this. Did y'all read the message? Y'all can't see the message? Don't worry. I'll show you the message real quick. For a life reset, younger fan from Indy trying to do right. What makes y'all think? I guess if I make a mistake and hit the button, right? I guess if I make a mistake and hit the button, we're going to go ahead and decline that. And then we're going to also block it. All right? We're going to decline and we're going to block this person. And we're going to go from there. What makes y'all think? And why do y'all do crazy stuff like this? Like, you know, and this is one of the things that the people around me be protecting me from, because they be like, "Yo, Anton, you can't help everybody, and people is trying to finesse you and they scamming you, and people be sending me requests and stuff like that." And I used to oblige. You know, I would send like the $25 request sometimes, or people would hit me up and all of this stuff, right? And I used to oblige, and I would send people money and stuff like that and all of that when people would ask me. And if you was a bag chaser, I really looked out for you, because I paid for funerals, I paid rent payments, but I would ask for proof. You know what I'm saying? But when people would ask me for like $20, $25, whatever, I ain't tripping off of that. I send it, whatever, you know, whatever do you do with it. If you scam me out of $20, then that's on you, because you're just a scumbag person if you felt compelled to scam somebody for $20, right? But let me say this. Y'all have gotten so disrespectful. Some of y'all, not all of y'all, obviously. You know who you are. If the shoe fits, wear it. Some of y'all have gotten so disrespectful to where you feel compelled to send me a request for $2,500. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with y'all. Sometimes I think that y'all actually really believe it. Like, I think that some of y'all really do be like, "Yeah, man, you know, I really do need a life reset." Look, bro, two different scenarios. There's two different possibilities in this thing. And then we're going to get started with the show, because we got a lot to cover. Economic policy. This whole show is going to be primarily about economic policy outside of quick hits, all right? Whole thing going to be about Kamala Harris's economic policy. So buckle up. Send this to a friend and family. We're going to break it down and we're going to get different reactions. We're going to look at the housing part of it as far as the real estate part. We're going to look at how she's going to pay for it. She answered that question. We're going to look at the full economic speech. We're going to go over it. We're going to look at the layoffs with Shawn Fain, Stellantis, the upcoming Democratic National Convention. We got a lot to go over today. So it's going to be a information-filled show today, all right? But it's two different scenarios in this conversation, right? If you're requesting $2,500 from me and you're a 20-year-old or something like that, either A, you scamming, that's number one, and you felt like you could finesse me, or B, you genuinely need to get your life together. Look, $2,500 is not going to fix your situation. You need to fail. You genuinely need to fail and go back to scratch, all the way to scratch. You need to suffer for whatever it is that you got going on and whatever it is that you're doing, and just reset. It's over. It's over for you, big dog. Don't worry about it. You got time. You got time to recover, but I can't help you. I'm not doing it. I'm not sending out no more unwarranted money to people that think that they just about to finesse me, fam. Real talk. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to get finessed no more. I've been finessed too much. Shout out to Christopher Donaldson again. He says, what up, OG? Thank you for what you do for the people. I feel like I've been used up. Not used up because I still got a lot left in the tank, but I feel like I've been used up. Thank you, Christopher Donaldson. I appreciate you for looking out for me, big dog. Also, P. Shank says, good morning, Mr. Anton Daniels in the Millionaire Morning Show. Thank you, P. Shank. Hey, I'm going to be honest with y'all. P. Shank, I don't even be knowing these people. I've never, ever heard of this guy in my entire life. And usually I'll go in and I'll look and I'll see if I ever had any history with the person or whatever. Man, this junk is crazy. It's absolutely, it's insane. Country Boy also says, come to Indy, I'll give you a free photography session. You know how much it's going to cost me to go to Indy? Because I don't just travel the regular way. I got to have my security with me when I'm going out of town. I got to book flights, and usually my flights cost a little bit more than the regular flights. I got to get a hotel. Hey, if I'm ever in Indy, though, shout out to Country Boy Finesse. If I'm ever in Indy, then I'll definitely tap in with you for that photography session, big dog. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Hey, how about we go ahead and get started with the show? Again, make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, shout out to Tiege Hanley. 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. That link is in the description also. Ladies, get it for the fellas. Fellas, don't wait for the ladies to get it for you. And then last but not least, again, love each other, take care of business, be on top of things, and do not find yourself in a position where you got to go out here and be crashing out because you made some bad life decisions. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let's get started, y'all. Quick hits. How about y'all want to get into quick hits? Let's get into quick hits. Quick hits is a segment of the show that we don't necessarily think that we have to deep dive into every single thing that's happening out in these streets, but we definitely want to keep y'all informed on what's going on because we don't want y'all crashing out and looking like crash dummies. We don't want y'all being step crash dummies, you know what I'm saying? So first and foremost, the National Guard is now being deployed to the DNC. All right, check it out.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker confirmed today that he's called up about 250 members of the Illinois National Guard to be on standby during the convention, many of them already here at Chicago Police Headquarters.
We have 13,000 National Guard in the state of Illinois, and very proud of those National Guardsmen, and we do call them up when we really need them.
Governor J.B. Pritzker today confirming a tip to Fox 32 that some 250 Illinois National Guard troops have been activated to assist Chicago police. Many of those guardsmen are being billeted at police headquarters at 35th and Michigan, and we saw some standing outside the building earlier today. Photos obtained by Fox 32 also show the Guard inside police headquarters. Pritzker says those being called to duty are trained...
Hold on. Let me back up for a second. Why is the one on the right standing the way that he's standing? I'm just curious. Why is the National Guard on the right? Is this still don't ask, don't tell? Is this still don't ask, don't tell? That one on the right, Y'all know how we get distracted. Don't worry about it. We're going to stay focused today. We got a lot to get through.
Side police headquarters. Pritzker says those being called to duty are trained as police officers with experience in crowd control, and he explained how they'll be used.
They are really on standby. They are, at the perimeter. Nobody expects that we'll have to use them for anything very serious, but we also want to make sure that we have additional law enforcement type folks who are in uniform and who are trained to be police available.
During the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee last month, 1,700 Wisconsin National Guard troops were deployed to assist security efforts. And it's not just the Guard being used in Chicago. On Saturday, Police Superintendent Larry Snelling deputized about 300 police officers from Milwaukee and downstate Illinois to work with Chicago police.
I want to reassure everyone that we will have resources in every single neighborhood. So it's not forgotten that we have a city to protect. It's not.
The reason that they're telling you this is because there's been countless examples and plenty of things where you've basically seen, like, for example, the Grand Prix and different events that was happening in Chicago. And what's happened is, because Chicago is short so many police officers, the ones that are there are being overworked. And then the ones that are there, they're also being deployed to the major event because they only care about optics and their reputation, as though their reputation is not already going down the drain. And they're not as concerned about what's happening to the citizens. So what happened is, because they're removing ShotSpotter, even though the suburbs are starting to install ShotSpotter, Chicago was reducing it because they have to allocate the majority of their budget over to social services and to the migrant crisis. And then they can't pay police officers. Police officers are dying at a historic rate. On top of that, what happened was the neighborhoods were just completely open for criminals. And then you had historic rates of crime and murder and shootings and all of this stuff. So Larry Snelling, the Chicago police superintendent, is saying that they learned from their mistakes. And so they're going to pull in the National Guard to help assist and play the role of police officers in addition to whatever it is and whatever security is going on with the Democratic National Convention. Because the Democratic National Convention is this week, and we're going to be covering it extensively. Of all of the speeches, you know that, who is it? Michelle Obama is speaking, Shawn Fain from the UAW. Lots of all-star lineup people are speaking in order to get you engaged in politics, right, and get you to vote. So that is basically what's happening in Chicago, right? They have the National Guard parading around as overglorified police officers. Protesters are out there en masse. I might even shoot over to Chicago this week. What do I got going on in Chicago? Going on this week? I might have to shoot over to Chicago. But anyway, so they're trying to allocate the majority of the police officers into the neighborhood, as well as policing the Democratic National Convention, and that's one of the reasons why they pulling in the National Guard. All right, in addition to that, Subway employees. I heard it was like 23 different Subways that closed, and employees had to leave out without final checks. Check it out.
Well, they were working until suddenly they weren't. More than 200 employees across 23 different Subway restaurant locations in our region are now without jobs.
This after they learned their locations were being shut down unexpectedly. Fox 12's Carly Olson spoke with some of those employees today and tried to find some answers. Carly?
Pete and Nora, I'm here outside of the Subway location in Gladstone, which is off of Southeast McLaughlin Boulevard. And as you can see, the door here is locked. We got the chance to speak to some former employees from this location today who tell us they received no notice, no reasons, and no final paycheck.
No warning, no heads up, no transparency, completely and totally blindsided every one of us.
It's the same sign on the door of each location announcing just a temporary closure. And it's about all that manager Joanne Kennedy knows about the situation.
So a few weeks ago, things just kind of went downhill at a very fast rate. Everything was good one day, and then our order didn't come, so we didn't have food.
She says they were told the food order was being resolved and to keep working, which they did until the food ran out.
And then our food orders started getting declined.
Another manager, Crystal, says everything finally came to a head last week.
Monday rolled around. It was like, you guys are not getting paid. We don't have any money to pay you.
Nearly 24 other Subway locations from Vancouver to Bend experienced mysterious closures, all of them franchised by Captain Enterprises and Subfecta LLC. Both Joanne and Crystal have reached out to the owners for answers, but all they've been told is to file through the Bureau of Labor and Industries for their final paychecks, which can take up to 100 days to process.
Yeah, I've got a car payment coming up. I've got insurance. I got cell phone bills. Like, I live paycheck to paycheck, supporting my kids. I don't know where I'm going to get grocery money now.
Now I'm struggling to, where am I going to get the money? Where am I going to find the finances to pay these bills, to pay, for groceries?
Joanne has found another job in the meantime, and Crystal is hoping for unemployment benefits until she can decide next steps. But they're still recovering from the shock of having their longtime careers ripped away and not having any idea why it happened.
I've cried for over a week and a half. You put so much trust in somebody who says they're going to take care of you and it's going to be okay and you're going to be fine. And it's the trust that's broken.
That's why let us all work for over 2 weeks.
So
Knowing
they get
that
the majority of the money that they can out of this. And then ultimately, they were going down. And so what they did was they had you sell out all of the rest of the food. They had already soured relationships because they probably wasn't paying their bills with their suppliers. And now you are the recipient of the unemployment line. Yes, you are. Yes, you are the recipient of unemployment. Yes, you are. So shout out to y'all, all of y'all, the 23 Subway closures. It's going to be layoffs everywhere. Everywhere is laying off. Stellantis, Cisco. I heard that it was layoffs in Cisco. Big tech. It's layoffs from low to high. Layoffs is everywhere. So welcome to the new Harris Biden economy that you can look forward to if you vote her in office for the next 4 to 8 years. 4 to 8 more years of what you've basically seen during this. All right. And then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, Thailand has sworn in a new female 37-year-old prime minister. Check it out.
To Thailand, where Paetongtarn Shinawatra has become the country's youngest ever prime minister. The 37-year-old says she's very honoured and happy to take up the post. Her selection by Thailand's parliament marks the return of the Shinawatra dynasty. She's the daughter of the billionaire tycoon and former leader Thaksin. Former Prime Minister S4E168 was dismissed earlier this week by the Constitutional Court. Well, Paetongtarn Shinawatra has been speaking in the past hour.
I talked to my family and I talked to a lot of people from my party, and I decided that it's about time to do something for the country and for the party as well. And I hope that I can do my best to make the country go forward. That's what I try to do. And right now, of course, I feel very honored and I feel very happy.
Well, let's go live now to Bangkok and our Southeast Asia correspondent Jonathan Head. And Jonathan, so she's a new face, but familiar family.
Familiar family, and in some ways a familiar face, because she did lead the campaign of the party last year. She's a good campaigner, and as you'll have seen from that clip, she comes across as quite natural and young and excited by the job, and I think a lot of Thais will like that. But the Shinawatra family are controversial. There are many conservative Thais who don't trust her father, Thaksin Shinawatra. That is the reason, almost certainly, why the court ruled against his previous nominee, former Prime Minister Seta. So, for somebody who's inexperienced like Paetongtarn, she's got a tough job to do. She's got to watch out for the courts moving against her. She has to hold together a very uneasy coalition, including a lot of conservative parties that still don't like her father. And she has the promise that her party's given to revive an economy in Thailand, which has been stuck with low growth for many, many years now. They've kind of run out of options. And so, it's quite a lot for a person that young and inexperienced to be taking on.
Yes, because you mentioned...
So, in other words, is really other people behind the scenes, including her father, that is running the show and not necessarily her. So somebody actually said it in the chat, and I was thinking that also, is that she's basically a figurehead. similar to what we have in Biden today. He's a figurehead, and there's other people that's really running the show behind the scenes, maybe even Kamala Harris herself. It's one of the reasons why we have such a trash economy. Then everybody is getting laid off, and wages and inflation is not keeping up with each other. But 37-year-old young prime minister woman that is now the figurehead of Thailand. And so I'm sure that since the economy is stuck in a lull, anybody that's going over there to get some lady boys, I know it's a lot of passport bros that go back and forth over to Thailand. Not saying that y'all like lady boys, but sometimes you don't even know what you're getting. That's basically what's happening in Quick Hits, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue on with the show. Oh. All right, let's go ahead and rock out. Let me do this real quick. Let's stop that. Let me read some of the super chats, and then we're going to jump right into Kamala Harris's economic policy. Kingston, it says, I got the super sticker. Thank you for the super sticker, Kingston. I appreciate you, big dog. Tech Coach Ralph in the building says the VP candidate wouldn't deploy the National Guard to protect this state, but he's okay with them deployed to protect their event. Fitting. Shout out to my dog, Tech Coach Ralph. BT says, good morning, Anton. Much love to you and the Chasers. Chicago police department officer here walking into the belly of the beast is DNC. Pray for your boy. Hey, somebody send a prayer up to my Chicago police officers that I love out here in these streets. Yeah, hold on. You're probably going to get a lot of overtime this weekend, but be careful, big dog. I love my police officers worldwide. Shout out to y'all, all right? All right, y'all ready to get started with the show? I will be reading super chats throughout the show and cash apps. I don't ask for them, but I have to acknowledge the people that support the platform. And we got a show. We got a hell of a show put together for you guys, so make sure that y'all tap in. Make sure y'all tap in. Hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and if you want your grandma, if you want grandma or grandpa, you know what I'm saying, and they got some headphones or they sitting at the crib and they watching this on TV because they ain't got no job, or you got some unemployed friends that needs to understand whether or not the Kamala Harris's economic policy is going to help you, send them this. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. We got Stock Club coming up this week, and we're going to run it up. All right, y'all. Y'all ready to get started with the show? For real, for real? Let's get started. So Kamala Harris, over the weekend, I almost believe like that's intentional so that we wouldn't be able to immediately react to it and then inform our audience members of what's going on in these streets and stuff. But Kamala Harris over the weekend basically released and did a town hall, which it seemed like it was pretty empty, but it was a lot of economic policy that we were requesting. And in my personal opinion, it was 100% disastrous. But what I want to do is wipe the slate clean. Wipe the slate clean. And let me tell my audience members and the moderators, as usual, we don't mind people that have a difference of opinion than us. We want people to come in here, give their authentic thoughts, especially if they're not disrespectful. Then we're not tripping off about that. People that disagree with us, we cool with that. Come on in. Come on in. Make sure y'all hit a like, because the likes is anemic, especially for how many people that we have in here. And so what I want to do is I want to play the speech in its entirety, and then we're going to go into different facets and different parts of it to get the expert's opinion on it, and we're going to break it down, all right? We're going to break it down. So nobody is confused as to what her economic policies are and whether or not it makes sense for your life, okay? We're going to get Donald Trump's reaction. We want everybody's reaction. We want to see what Shawn Fain is doing, because Stellantis is over there laying off for the UAW, even though I predicted that this was going to happen. We want to get everybody's opinion on this, all right? So make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's see if we can get to the thick of the speech itself and we can skip through all of the fluff.
And thank you, Mike, for sharing your story. And I'm just so sorry for what your family has been through, but you have...
I don't want to hear all of that.
Thank you. And good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you to all. Governor Roy Cooper. The number of times I've been in this beautiful state since I've been Vice President, Manning, Fushi, and Nadu. This election, I do strongly believe, is about two very different visions for our nation. One, ours, focused on the future, and the other, focused on the past. We see that contrast clearly in many ways, including when it comes to how we think about the economy. So our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. At that time, we sadly remember the millions of Americans that were out of work.
Cap.
We were facing one of the worst economic crises in modern history.
Are they rewriting history? What? What is she talking about? We were booming. All right, so I just want y'all to listen. We all can agree that we was all getting to the bag during the Trump administration. But, you know, I know they like to rewrite history in order to try to beef up what it is that they're about to say and what they're about to do. Let's get to it.
And today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world. We have created
I'm going to try not to pause too much because we got a lot to get through. So I'm going to try not to pause as much, and I'm going to only pause when I really need to make a point. So come on, y'all. And I might have to speed this up to 1.25 because she talks really slow so that she can make sure that she reads from the teleprompter. So we're going to speed this up to 1.25 and we're going to get there.
16 million new jobs. We've made historic investments in infrastructure, in chips manufacturing, in clean energy. And new numbers this week alone show that inflation is down under 3%. And as President of the United States, it will be my intention to build on the foundation of this progress. Still, we know that many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Costs are still too high. And on a deeper level, for too many people, no matter how much they work, it feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. As president, I will be laser focused on creating opportunities for the middle class that advance their economic security, stability, and dignity. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy. An opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Everyone, regardless
Thank you for the super
of who
chats.
they are,
I'm going to read
where
those
they start,
shortly.
has
I'm
an
trying to
opportunity
minimize the
to
amount of
build
pauses that I
wealth for
have because it's a long
and their
speech.
children. And where we remove the barriers to opportunity so anyone who wants to start a business or advance their career can access the tools and the resources that are necessary to do so.
I've sped up this to 1.25, and again, I'm going to minimize the amount of pauses. I'm going to read the super chats after this one, and then, you know, we're going to go segment by segment. But I'm going to try to minimize the amount of pauses because I know a lot of y'all only like to watch the highlights. It's like watching an NBA game. You got to watch the full game so we can get the full context and not just go by what everybody else is telling us.
I will focus on cutting needless bureaucracy and unnecessary regulatory red tape. And encouraging.
That's what Republicans do. That's not what she's doing. But we're going to go into it.
While protecting consumers and creating a stable business environment with consistent and transparent rules of the road.
I'm going to be taking notes.
As president, I will bring together labor with small businesses and major companies to invest in America, to create good jobs, achieve broad-based growth, and ensure that America continues to define the future and lead the world.
Thank you for the super chats, y'all. Appreciate y'all.
And key to creating this opportunity economy is building up our middle class.
So right now, so she hasn't said any policies.
The middle class is one of,
and what she's doing basically is similar to what they teach you inside of school. And I talk about this all the time. They tell you to do the introductory paragraph, and then you give, you know, your 3 different talking points or however many talking points. The supporting paragraphs is that, and then the final paragraph is a summary and a recap of what it is that you've already explained as far as what your thesis is, all right? So that's what she's doing. She hasn't said any policies yet up to this point, but apparently she's going to get there, so we're going to rock out.
Of America's greatest strengths. And to protect it then, we must defend basic principles, such as your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life. Such as no child should have to grow up in poverty. such as after years of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity. And you should be able to join a union if you choose. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency, because I strongly believe when the middle class is strong, America is strong. So in the weeks to come, I will address in greater detail my plans to build an opportunity economy. And today, I will focus on one element
Thank you for the Cash
minds
App.
of many Americans
I'm
as
gonna get
they
to all
pay
of the
their
Cash
bills
Apps
at
and the
the
Super
kitchen
Chat
table
shortly.
or walk the aisles of a grocery store. And that is lowering the cost of living. So every day across our nation, families talk about their plans for the future, their ambitions, their aspirations for themselves, for their children.
Cap.
And they talk about how they're going to be able to actually achieve them financially.
Cap.
Because look, the bills add up. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes.
People are talking about how they're going to survive. They're not talking, at this point in this supposed phenomenal economy, people are not having a conversation about what their aspirations and dreams or goals are. People are having conversations with their children. They say, hey, man, what are you going to do for a living? Because you don't really want to make the same mistakes that we make. It's a survival economy at this point. People are getting laid off. They're not sure what they're going to do. They're trying to figure out how it is or what if they should go to school. Most people need a side hustle. Ain't no one job and then you able to survive and none of that. Even the people that have one job are starting to feel like, hey, man, if I ever get laid off, how am I going to do this? Most people are reducing and pulling back how much money that they spending on their regular stuff. And you know, if they having a conversation with me or they participating in the Millionaire Morning Show, I'm already telling them that because I'm trying to empower them to become successful in the first place, or how it is that you can, you know, make the sacrifice now so you can ultimately be successful in the future. But most people are not having a conversation talking about thriving. I'm going to tell you what I see. And I'm a person that's on the ground and I talk to people every single day. Coaching sessions, in the streets, regular basis. People are trying to figure out how they can survive, right? They fearful that they're not going to have enough money to retire, or people are in this position to where it's like, listen, man, I always feel like I'm behind. I don't care if you're 18 or you're 72. Everybody that I talk to say, man, I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm behind. And so even when you go out to restaurants and you see these restaurants are full, or you see these trips are full, and people going to these vacations, people are doom spending. When you talk to them and you say, hey, man, why'd you take their vacation? It's because they don't feel as though they have any, like they don't have nothing to look forward to. And so it's almost like a YOLO type of situation. Like, man, skip it, man. It don't matter anyway. I don't know. I ain't even going to worry about tomorrow. I'm just going to go ahead and have this conversation now. People not spending. Debt is out of control. People are not just going out and having a good time and spending a lot of money because they successful and they winning. They're spending money almost like a doom spend because it's like, man, I don't even care no more. Listen, we just going to have fun. We're not going to worry about what's going on right now. We just going to drive this car. We're going to take this trip. We're going to bust these chicks down. Whatever it is, that's how people are approaching the economy today. People are not looking forward to or feeling as though they can get a leg up. They're looking forward to buying a house. They're not doing that no more. That was the sentiment that was in 2017, 2018, 2019. That's not the sentiment today.
Prescription medication? After all that, for many families, there's not much left at the end of the month. I grew up in a middle-class household. For most of my childhood, we were renters. My mother saved for well over a decade to buy a home. I was a teenager when that day finally came, and I can remember so well how excited she was. I kind of understood what it meant, but we called her Mommy.
I agree, Tame Chaos. We're going to get there. I'm going to read that.
Excited. Later in college, I worked at McDonald's to earn spending money. Well, some of the people I worked with were raising families on that paycheck. They worked second or even third jobs to pay rent and buy food. That only gets harder when the cost of living goes up. When I am elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans.
We're going to get to the economic policy.
I will take on the high costs
I watched this
that
live,
matter most
so
to most
I am
Americans,
familiar with most of it,
like
but I didn't take
the
any
cost
notes.
of food.
I just wanted to get the general talking
know
points.
That prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved, and prices are still too high. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't.
Now, let me educate y'all on something, because I am familiar with retail. I am familiar with the margins. I am familiar intimately because I've worked in these industries. I've consulted in these industries, and I am familiar with how these grocers, or whether or not they are actually profiting. Let me break it down. And these are just talking points from people that's not on the ground. They're not aware. They never worked in the private sector. They're not aware of what's going on, because every job that they've ever had has been an elected position, both her and Tim Walz, okay? So in the grocery store, the highest margin, meaning that the thing that you make the most profit off of, is perishables and things that are in the refrigerated aisle. So if you going in and you getting yogurt, right, those type of things, those are the things that have the highest margins in the grocery store. But those are the things that you also have the most waste, right? You have the most waste for those things. They go spoiled. Ultimately, people throw it away, or it gets messed up in the shipping supply and all of that. But the grocery store has some of the lowest margins. They even depend on the Kellogg's and the cereal companies and the meat companies and stuff to purchase shelf space, to purchase end caps, right? Because they want to get the products in front of you so that you're more incentivized to buy it, because it's at eye level. And so when you see grocery stores, and that's why you see a lot of these stores starting to evolve, they go into hot food, which they can then market up and make a little bit more money off of. Walmart is actually the largest grocer in the United States of America. They sell the majority of the groceries, but Walmart has leveraged their strategy and their footprint in the United States of America to allow for you and to hopefully incentivize you and market to you the ability to go to different parts of the store. And so they designed the store for you to maybe come in through grocery, but then you participate in pharmacy, and maybe you can also conveniently get your makeup, and then you go over to the electronics aisle because you just want to browse, possibly buy some home goods, go and get you some socks, some drawers, and then when you go up to the register, maybe you'll pick up a couple pieces of candy or a magazine, which would support the profitability of the company, because they don't really make money off of groceries. That's just to get you in there. That is what we call, in a lot of instances, a loss leader, or you just have a wash with that because you're not actually making any money. So when she's talking like this, and she's talking about grocers and they're passing along, look, man, it's not true. It's not true. Grocery companies are shutting down. Large grocers are ultimately putting the smaller grocers out of business, which is why you don't see any mom and pop spots anymore, right? Because and the only other grocers that you see in food deprived environments are the corner stores and the little markets that you ultimately get the marked up prices for. And so when she's talking about the price of food and stuff like that, it's so many other factors, including the cost to continue to keep employees, educate them, healthcare coverage requirements, unemployment insurance requirements and changes. They're advocating for higher wages and higher benefits and higher healthcare coverage, which then has to be passed over into the consumer. And so when she's saying the prices, it's not a baseline. You can't just say, okay, prices in groceries are high, and that's because they getting historic profits. No, they have historic sales. So if you compare sales now versus previous to the pandemic, which was actually in a Trump era, sales are higher now because the cost of groceries are higher, but the expenses is higher. The rent is higher. The amount of improvements that they have to make to the facility in order to make sure that they update it so that they're not short-staffed, and they have to make sure that migrants come in. And it's so many different factors that goes into the success of a grocery business, and anybody that has ever tried to open up a business, a brick and mortar, and sell products. And then also you have to factor in, depending on what part of the country you're in. If you're in any of these liberal cities, shrink is up. A lot of people are not familiar with shrink. So shrink is anything that reduces the profits as far as the products themselves, removing themselves from the shelves. It could be stealing, which is a huge part of it. That is a huge part of the economy, which now you have to get more loss prevention officers. It takes more money to prosecute the people that are stealing. Over in California, shrink is huge because it's not just the product getting damaged and then you have to throw it away or something like that. Theft is out of control. And so what do? They have to raise the price because the total price of what you sell a product for is the total cost to be able to run the business. So now they have to pass that on to the consumer. So when people steal and then they have to raise prices or they have to institute more technology into the store in order to allow for you to survive, right? Then that is going to be passed on to the cost of the consumer, spread out across multiple different products. So when they say, oh, well, the supply chain is back together, they're off. They're off 1,000%. And so what we need to be focused on is the intangibles in order to allow for businesses, big and small, to be able to thrive in the economy. It's not about price gauging and making sure that you cap the price, because what you do is you limit the business's ability to be able to make money. This is economics 101. I could teach a class right here. You're going to learn more in this live stream than you learned in school and what you definitely going to learn on this speech. You can't price cap, because what you have to do is you have to create competition. You create competition by creating a better environment for businesses to be able to thrive, right? You have to make sure that there is no stealing. That's a better environment. You got to make sure that public safety is a priority. You got to prosecute the criminals. You also have to remove all of the red tape that allows for businesses to be able to continue to have suppliers and get more products onto the shelves, and for them to be able to hire more employees. And then that naturally lowers the price of products, because competition is almost like you get what you pay for, you get what you negotiate. And so if this person is hiring better employees because they give better service, for example, Costco is one of the examples of that. Costco traditionally has better service, which people are willing to pay higher prices than they are at Sam's Club or other places, right? You incentivize businesses to continue to thrive by creating competition and removing the barriers to entry that allows for them to be successful. You create an environment where it naturally solves for itself, and you don't have to insert yourself and have more regulation, which one of the things that she said, and I'm writing it down, she says she wants to cut regulation. You can't cut regulation by over-regulating. You can't cut regulation by over-regulating. You can't start to put parameters on what businesses can and can't sell. You allow for the market to dictate it, and if the market don't like it, then the business goes out of business, and people no longer want to shop there. And so what she's about to do is she's about to gaslight you guys, because again, I already watched this, so I'm gonna break it down for y'all. And again, this is going to be an extensive live stream, so I want y'all to really pay attention. What she's about to do is she's going to gaslight you and just give a general talking point. And it's almost like she never took an economics class, or whoever it is that's in her cabinet didn't participate in the economics class when they decided they wanted to craft this policy. And so the first thing she's going to do is she's going to play on y'all emotions. Oh, food, the price of food is too high. Well, what do you think that y'all did over the last 3.5 years? What do you think is happening over in California, and y'all supporting this criminal economy, and then y'all basically running people out of business while at the same time advocating for higher wages and legislating for higher wages and pushing business retailers out of business? Who you think is going to survive? The only people that's going to survive is the Walmarts. Ain't going to be no more small grocers. Or it's going to force them to have to merge in order to survive, similar to what they do inside of all of the other industries, such as the hotel industry, such as the airplane industry, the airline industry, all of this stuff. If you create an environment where businesses can't thrive, the only people that are going to survive are the ones, that's the Walmarts, the Amazons, and all of that. You're not going to have any more brick and mortar stores. You're going to create a gig economy. You're going to drive all of these businesses out of business. Small business won't be incentivized to open it up. The barrier to entry is going to be too high. And then the only thing you will have is the Walmarts and whatever major grocer that goes along with it. So watch her play on y'all emotions.
Look, I know most businesses are creating jobs, contributing to our economy, and playing by the rules. But some are not. And that's just not right. And we need to take action when that is the case.
I wrote it down. She said she was going to cut the regulation.
As
She said she was
Attorney
cutting
General in
regulation.
California, I went after companies that illegally increased prices,
See, same
including
thing.
wholesalers that inflated the price of prescription medication, and companies that conspired with competitors to keep prices of electronics high. I won more than $1 billion for consumers.
Same talking points. I went after the big drug companies. I went after the price gougers when it came to the housing industry, and I want $20 billion for, she said the same thing every single freaking speech, bro.
So believe me, as president, I will go after the bad actors.
What bad actors? What bad actors?
And I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
So she says she's going to cut regulation. It's the first thing that I wrote down. She's not going to regulate what goes on. She's going to cut regulation, but now she's going to overregulate exactly how small businesses operate, which basically raises the price of food, and it creates bread lines because we basically are going to be living in a socialist environment.
My plan will include new penalties for opportunistic companies that exploit crises and break the rules, and we will support smaller food businesses that are trying to play by the rules and get ahead. We will help the food industry become more competitive because I believe competition is the lifeblood of our economy. More competition means lower prices for you and your families. Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do.
Wait. Now, we're not going to skip past that. How do you create more competition? How do you create more competition? How do you create more competition? Because that's just a talking point. She didn't actually address that. And she's doing the same thing that they do on Monday nights. Make sure y'all tap into the Monday night panel. She's going to do the same thing that they do on Monday nights. Instead of actually substantiating their argument, she then moves on to Donald Trump and says, now what is Donald Trump going to do? Now she's going to give some general stupid talking points that's probably not true.
He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries. So
basically what she's trying to say, instead of saying, look, let me tell y'all how bad this administration is and why they gaslight and why y'all need to be informed, why you need to subscribe to the Millionaire Morning Show, why you need to get the likes up because we got over 4,000 people in here on YouTube alone. And then likes is anemic. Let me tell you how they gaslight. She's basically speaking on the tariffs that the Trump administration imposed on China because competition was being absolutely taken advantage of, and they were dumping cheap steel, right? That was basically sponsored by the Chinese government. They were dumping products over here, and then when we went over there in order to open up businesses, and if we wanted to do business over in China, we had to partner with a company, and basically they took our proprietary technology in order to make sure that they built their own businesses up, and then they cut us out, and then they price gouged us, and then they moved us out of the economy. So they stole all of our technology, they stole our business secrets, and then they pushed us out, and then they ran their own businesses, and they create their own cars, and they did it at a faster rate than we could do it, which is why you now have a BYD automotive company that is trying to take up and then buy Chrysler and buy Dodge today. So what she's basically saying is that, oh, no, Trump raised prices through tariffs. No, he allowed for there to be more competition and Chinese companies couldn't come over here and exploit, which is one of the reasons that the steel industry was saved and it created more American jobs. But what they won't tell you is this is the beautiful part about it, right? Because some people will say, and I seen a guy say this on last Monday, he said, well, Anton, it created more costs because we couldn't get our products at lower prices and be able to get them cheap based off of Chinese manufacturers. Well, not only was Trump trying to incentivize the economy to create more jobs, the Biden-Harris administration left the tariffs in place. Let me say that for y'all one more time. The Biden-Harris administration, these tariffs that they speak so ill about, why didn't they pull them back? Why didn't they pull back the tariffs that Trump implemented? And Trump mentioned this during the last debate between him and Biden, when he absolutely washed him. Why didn't they remove the tariffs that Trump had instituted that ultimately saved the steel industry in the first place? Why didn't they remove the tariffs? If this is what happened, they had 3.5 years to remove it. If this was so bad, why didn't they remove the very thing that they said that they advocate against? Because they know that it was good policy. They knew that it was a good thing and it was something that hadn't happened in our lifetime. They did not remove the very tariffs that she's sitting here speaking about. But it's easy to reframe the words and not say tariff, and then to say use word salad in order to fool the people. But see, when you somebody like me and you actually take notes and you paying attention and she's talking about creating competition in the industry, you got to create competition between Americans, right? Even though we're competing on a global scale because we have the largest economy in the world, or one of the largest economies in the world, if they want to do business over here, then they have to play by our rules, which then feeds your family and allows for you to get more jobs and higher wages and more opportunities, and the economy just naturally booms because you don't have people in here manipulating what happens within our markets. Why did they keep them in place if it's so bad?
Will devastate Americans. It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. A Trump tax on gas, a Trump tax on food, a Trump tax on clothing, a Trump tax on over-the-counter medication. And you know, economists have done the math. Donald Trump's plan would cost a typical family $3,900 a year. At this moment, when everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher. As president, I'll take on the issue of the cost of health care. As Attorney General,
wait. She just skipped over all the possibilities of how she's going to solve for all of this stuff. And we went straight from tariffs, food cost caps, straight over to healthcare. All right, cool. We rocking.
Insurance companies and Big Pharma, and got them to lower their prices. And together with President Biden, we've gone even further. We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month, and the total cost...
Cue the cue cards, y'all.
Cost of prescription drugs at $2,000 a year for seniors. We let Medicare negotiate lower drug prices for seniors. And just yesterday, we announced that we are lowering the price by up to 80%.
I'm gonna try to stop. I'm gonna try to not stop it as much, y'all. Because we got to get through the rest of the speech.
And I pledge to continue this progress. I'll lower the cost of insulin and prescription drugs for everyone with your support, not only our seniors. And demand transparency from the middlemen who operate between Big Pharma and the insurance companies who use opaque practices to raise your drug prices and profit.
New word, y'all. New word alert. She got a new word. So opaque. We're going to be hearing this in future speeches.
Off your need for medicine. 2 months ago, I announced that medical debt will no longer be used against your credit score. And I will work as president with states like...
I wonder if she would ever address the fact that hospital care and people that work in the hospital industries are being laid off at a massive rate. That the hospital industry is basically being privatized and they're being laid off at a massive rate. I wonder if she would ever address that. Y'all think she would address that? Okay, let's just continue.
Here in North Carolina, Roy Cooper, thank you again, to cancel medical debt for more and more, millions more Americans. As for Donald Trump, well, he wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Boo.
Which 45 million Americans rely on. 45 million Americans rely on it for health care. That would take us back to a time when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We all remember what that was. And we're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. And remember, and this is why we're not going back, because we do remember, he tried to cut Medicare every year he was president, threatening a program that tens of millions of seniors count on. And according to his Project 2025 agenda, he intends to undo our work to bring.
Are y'all honestly, like, y'all not concerned that she continues to use talking points and stuff that's not even true? Like, how can y'all have confidence in a woman that her very administration is the reason that y'all suffering, and now she's trying to use fake talking points because her handlers and the pollster said, hey, make sure that you use Project 2025 because the people don't know and most people are ignorant. Yeah, look, most people are stupid. I'm going to just be honest with y'all. Because you know me, I don't care. I'm not worried about what people think. I'm 100% independent. I'm already rich, so I'm not really concerned about what people think about me. The fact of the matter is, most people are stupid. Most people are dumb. Real talk. That's why they created No Child Left Behind, because they knew that your child was a little bit slower. They wanted to change it and not make your child feel some type of way or you feel some type of way about it. And so instead of putting them in an LD class, it used to be called the LD class. It was the Learning Disability class. Learning disabilities. And it was, oh, you in the LD class. That's the class where they don't go in the gym. Right? That's the class where they don't switch and go to music room and they didn't. And this is all the way in elementary school. They don't go to music room. They might give your kid a helmet and all of that. But now all of these kids and all of these people is walking around in the public and we don't know who is who because nobody had a tag on their shirt that says, they removed the room where every kid had to go to that was the room that was the closest to the restrooms. They never got out. They went to lunch at a different time and all of that. And so now we got all of these same people on the internet talking about how they going to vote for Kamala Harris and all of that. And these are the same ones that got the diversity, equity, inclusion jobs. They got in off of identity politics. They got into college on affirmative action back when they was younger. They didn't qualify. They knew that they wasn't smart enough to go into STEM, so they went into African American studies where they were guaranteed at least to get a C. And then these are the very ones that sitting here on TikTok with a phone telling you how you should vote, and they never qualified themselves to be worthy of having this conversation with you in the first place. That is the truth. Most people are slow. They're slow. They have no ability to think for themselves. That's why you see so many people use talking points from everybody else because they don't even know. When the next person you see that say, hey man, what about Trump's Project 2025? Know that was the kid that dodged the learning disabilities class because he did not do his own research and he doesn't have the ability to do so. So he's depending on Taraji P. Henson to give him his talking points so that he can come up on Monday night and say, Anton, I want to debate you. Debate who? Who you gonna debate? And I'll be looking at him like, oh, you just loud and wrong. You just loud. But I got a laptop and I got a camera and I want to debate you. You just loud. What about Project 20? And then I got to sit there and look like a fool because I'm stuck with them for the next 3 hours debating back and forth with a bunch of fools because ain't nobody educated on what it is that they talking about. And so now I got to answer the question. So now I'm looking like a fool because I got to talk to a fool that ain't even educated enough to realize that ain't even got nothing to do with Trump in the first place. But they'll let you play on your emotions and they'll sit here and have this conversation with you and let you talk like a fool on the panel because we don't know who you are until you get there.
Bring down prescription drugs, the cost of prescription drugs, and insulin costs. Well, we've come too far to let that happen. So we're not going back on that, and let's talk about the cost of housing.
Oh, we just skip right over that. Okay.
So
cool.
now, the housing market can be complicated, but look, I'm not new to this issue. As State Attorney General, I drafted and helped pass a homeowner Bill of Rights, one of the first in America. And during the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big banks for predatory lending with many of my colleagues, including Roy Cooper.
I told y'all she
and
was
won
going to say it.
$20 billion for California families when I was Attorney General.
I told y'all. Every speech, same talking point.
So I know how to fight for people who are being exploited in the housing market. And I know what home ownership means. It's more than a financial transaction. It's so much more than that. It's more than a house. home ownership and what that means, it's a symbol of the pride that comes with hard work.
And if that's the truth, then how come you won't tell Tim Walz to buy him a house? Why is Tim Walz homeless? Why is your, hold on, wait. If this is a symbolism of pride, right? Why is Tim Walz a renter? I just want to know. I'm just curious. Let me write that down. Why is Tim Walz not a real? Ain't nothing wrong with renting. I just want to make sure that we can speak to our talking points and that we actually live in the thing that we advocating for other people to do. Why does Tim Walz own zero real estate? That's all I'm asking. Because that means that he can't relate then, right? He ain't got no real estate, no Bitcoin, no 401, no nothing. No stocks, no investments, no mutual funds, no nothing. That's all I want to know. How come Tim Walz don't have it then? Why wasn't that a part of the vetting process to make sure that he can relate to the American people?
It's financial security. It represents what you will be able to do for your children. And sadly, right now, it is out of reach for far too many American families. There's a serious housing shortage. In many places, it's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up.
She know nothing about it.
As president, I will work in partnership with industry to build the housing we need, both to rent and to buy. We will take down barriers and cut red tape, including at the state and local levels.
How? One of the things that we implemented that I got to give Barack Obama a little bit of credit for, I hate giving Barack Obama credit, but I got to be objective enough to do so, is that we had administrations, including the Bush administration and the Clinton administration, that ran this country into the ground by basically because there has to be some rules, right? We can't just deregulate everything. We have to have some barriers to entry. And one of the reasons why we had a housing crisis is because they had ninja loans. No income, no job, you approved. No income, no job, you're approved. And so the easier that you make it as far as people being able to just easily get a home, and when you say, I just want to remove the red tape, how? One of the ways that you have to protect the housing industry is that you got to make sure that people are able to pay for what it is that they're trying to sign up for 30 years for. I seen a 40-year loan, a 40-year mortgage loan the other day. 40 years. 40 years. That means if I bought that house today and I financed it for 30 to 40 years, at 42 years old, I wouldn't be done paying for it until I was 72 or 82.
And by the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class.
Similar to how they did it in California, right? So what they basically telling y'all is that the United States government now plans to participate in the real estate industry and to help regulate exactly what the cost is, which is going to be disastrous for the real estate industry. And it's going to cause even higher housing costs, such as what we see over in California. Listen, California is the blueprint. California housing is the blueprint for what she is telling y'all. It is the reason why they are spending $165 million, $600,000 per unit for permanent housing for homeless people. Over in California, they've thrown over $25 billion towards the issue over in California, and housing is largely out of reach for every single person, every regular person that lives over in California. What she's basically proposing to you is California for the rest of the United States of America. The government is going to get involved with building houses. Come on, family. Come on, y'all. Come on. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. You do not, because again, cutting Cutting the government's participation is the first thing that I wrote on here. Cutting government participation in a free market industry is one of the things that she used as a talking points in the very, very beginning of this. They're basically telling you that they want to get involved in creating housing projects for you guys and inflating the cost of housing for y'all. But that's not all.
We'll do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle-class Americans.
So now you have to have an income threshold. That's basically what they're telling you. There's going to be an income threshold. And so the middle class is absolutely going to be decimated because you have to make under a certain amount to even be able to qualify in certain industries in certain states. And this is just all stupid, bro. Stupid. It's dumb. It reminds me of applying for student loans for college. You make too much money to actually get any Pell Grants, but you don't make enough money to be able to pay for college. So now there's going to probably be income thresholds because if you make so much money or you are successful or you doing the right thing and you taking care of business and you studied and you was on top of things, you don't qualify for the things that they're going to use in order to validate whether or not this person deserves to be in this housing market. This is dumb. This is dumb. This is going to be the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. And y'all signing up for it. And y'all deserve it. Y'all signing up for it and y'all deserve it.
Not just investors. Because, you know, some corporate landlords, some of them, buy dozens, if not hundreds of houses and apartments. Then they turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. And it can make it impossible
We're gonna get to all
for
of the super
regular
chats.
people to be able to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms in price-fixing software to do it. It's anti-competitive and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices.
Just a random law that cracks down on the... Okay, I got you. Just want to make sure we all on the same page.
We also know that as the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well. Even if aspiring homeowners...
During your administration, let's not leave out the key details here. During your administration, we've had record interest rates. During you and Biden's administration, this is what y'all created also on top of that, but let's not act like that we're not aware of what's going on out in these streets.
For years, it often still is not enough. So in addition, while we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home.
So now I ask the question, y'all. This is as everybody stands up and applauds and nobody applies any of their critical thinking skills. Everybody just reacted. Nobody applied any critical thinking skills because it sounds great. Oh my God, I get $25,000. Okay, so first and foremost, you know you're going to have to make sure that you're under an income threshold in order to get it. Number two, who gets it? Number three, don't y'all know that this is going to increase inflation? And number four, who pays for it? Who is paying for $25,000 per person, which is just going to artificially increase the price of the home itself? It's not going to actually give you anything except for more inflation, right? And the builders and the people that sell their homes are going to exponentially increase the price of the home itself. And that means that it's going to put it further out of reach of what you got to do unless you buy it. I mean, this is dumb. This is the dumbest thing ever. Government should not be in private industries. Government should not be in private industry. Who paying for all of this? Who's paying for this?
We can do this. We can do this.
We can do this. We can do this. We can do this.
To help more Americans experience the pride of home ownership and the financial security that it represents and brings.
This is
So
so
that's
dumb.
my plan.
This is so dumb.
But here's what Donald Trump would do. If
We know what Trump would do. We already talked to him.
his project is $200 a year
Hold on.
is put into what Donald Trump would do. If his Project 2025 agenda is
Again, more content for the slow kids. More content for the slow kids. Fake news, but let her go ahead and spill it to you.
put into effect, it will add around $1,200 a year to the typical American mortgage. He's got it backward.
Jesus
We should be
Christ.
doing everything
just
we
been saying
can to
stuff,
make it
bro.
more affordable to buy a home,
I'm going to let her talk for a while so that we can hopefully get through this.
not less. Finally, there's one more way I will help families deal with rising costs.
I didn't see this last part, so I'm learning about this last part in real time like you guys.
And that's by letting you keep more of your hard-earned money. Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, and we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle-class and working Americans: the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit, through which millions of Americans with children got to keep more of their hard-earned income. We know this works and has a direct impact on so many
taking
issues,
notes.
including child poverty. We know it works. So as president, I'll not only restore that tax cut, but expand it. We will provide $6,000 in tax relief to families during the first year of a child's life. Now think what that means. Think what that means. That is a vital, vital year of critical development of a child. And the cost can really add up, especially for young parents who need to buy
So
diapers.
basically what she's saying is Bonquisha and them is going to be incentivized to have more kids out of wedlock. Don't worry about it. Bonquisha and them is going to have more kids, and they're going to be incentivized to basically create a slave culture because they know that your child has no bearing or no pathway to success, especially when they got 8 kids by 7 baby daddies.
Diapers and clothes and a car seat and so much else. And we will do this while reducing the deficit.
Speaking from a person that has never had kids before. But let's continue.
Compare my plan with what Donald Trump intends to do. He plans to give billionaires massive tax cuts year after year. And he plans to cut corporate taxes by over $1 trillion, even as they pull in record profits. And that's on top of the $2 trillion tax cut he already signed into law when he was president, which, by the way, overwhelmingly went to the wealthiest Americans and corporations and exploded the national deficit. You know, I think that if you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for.
So that is her economic policy. I'm going to see if she has anything else to say in this, and then we're going to go from there.
Donald Trump fights for billionaires and large corporations. I will fight to give money back to working and middle-class Americans. So I'll end with this. 2 days ago, Donald Trump was here in North Carolina. He said he was going to talk about the economy.
All right, so we got Kamala Harris's speech. That's her economic policy. Let me see if I missed anything, because I want to make sure that I took all of my notes.
In greater detail, my plans to build an opportunity economy. I grew up in a middle-class college. I worked at McDonald's, shut down and failed. And we need to take action when we went after companies that illegally increased prices. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax. President, I'll take on the issue of the cost of health care.
Okay, so we got the 4 talking points. All right. All right, so her 4 talking points was this. These are the 4 pillars as I've basically observed in this speech, right? The 4 pillars are this. Price gouging for food. Now, let me make sure that I educate y'all on why she said what she said. Because The main things that people are concerned about in this economy, even though they are the ones that basically got this economy effed up altogether, right? But the main things that they're concerned about in this economy that most people are is their ability to be able to have a roof over their head. Homelessness is crazy. Feed their kids. Debt is out of control. And immigration. Now, we have no solution for immigration. That's not something that I don't think that she'll ever talk about. It's not a thing, right? Immigration is a subject that is hands off on anything immigration because we don't want to have a conversation about that, all right? So the 4 things that we're concerned about here that she addressed. Controlling food, all right? Housing. She planned on giving people $25,000 and building more projects, all right? Healthcare, insulin, all right? Making sure that we cap the cost of insulin. And the earned and the child tax credits. Those are her 4 pillars. Food, housing, healthcare, child tax credits. All right? Those are the things that she addressed in her speech specifically. So now you guys can come to your own conclusion now that you understand exactly what her economic, we don't know how we're going to pay for it. We don't know how we're going to regulate it. We don't know what the hell is going on. We don't know our left from our right. But those are the 4 things that she spoke about. And she also had an opportunity to, I'm going to read the super chat shortly, don't worry, but I want to continue along this path. She also had the opportunity to have a conversation about how she plans to pay for these things, all right? So finally, Cam, I call her Cam, some of y'all may not, I call her Cam. Finally, she made herself available to the general public, and she said, listen, these are my policies. This is what I stand on. And I'm going to get off this bus, and I want to let you guys question me on exactly how I plan to pay for these things, okay? So she gave you an explanation, and I have to give her credit from taking pointed remarks from reporters when she comes off of the bus after she gives her economic plan, and she's going to have a conversation with the general public on how she's going to pay for these things, all right? Make sure y'all tune in. I'm going to read the super chats and the Cash App shortly. Let's get to it.
Hi. What you got?
All right, right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's almost done. I mean, there's some little tweaks, and I'm gonna, work on it probably starting tomorrow for the next month. But it's coming along. I feel good about it. I mean, essentially, it's much of what you've probably heard me talk about before in terms of just what I believe to be the promise of America and the fact that we're all in this. And there's obviously a lot at stake, but there's also a lot to feel good about in terms of the future of our country. So there will be a lot that is about what I believe is a way forward, a new way forward.
So I didn't get a chance to hear the first question, but she answered it very general. I think the second question that she takes, she speaks more specifically, or at least we hope so. I did not get a chance to hear the first question, but she's basically just giving the general talking points. Hey, listen, I still got to tweak some things. We almost there at the finish line. It's a lot going on, but this is a pathway forward for all Americans, and we're all going to do this together. We have some time. We're going to tweak some things. We're going to make some changes, but we have some time. So they've been in the White House for the last 3.5 years. They haven't fully tweaked their plan, but the next reporter is going to ask a different question. Let's continue.
Bringing everyone along in that.
You unveiled some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those? And can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure.
Okay, so the question is, you unveiled your economic policies. A, how are you going to pay for it?
Pay for those, and can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure.
And then other policies, B, other policies to unveil, even though we less than 80 days away from voting, we still don't know what the policies are, even though they've been in office for the last 3.5 years, and other policies that they plan to unveil going forward. So we have the core four. Controlling groceries, food, housing, healthcare, earned income tax credit, or earned and child tax credits, okay? So now she's going to speak on how she's going to pay for these things.
Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing.
Okay, wait. The question is, how do you plan to pay for this? Let me rewind it. I want to make sure, because she don't have no teleprompters in front of her right now, all right? So she got to just answer the question. She got to wing it. It's the first time that she took any questions from reporters. I missed it. I'm slow, though. I'm a C student. I didn't have learning disabilities. I didn't have to ride the short bus. I didn't have a helmet. I didn't have to go to the class. That was directly next to the bathroom, okay? But I'm not a Harvard scholar. I'm not J.D. Vance. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't go to Princeton or any of these things, right? So I got to rewind it sometimes to make sure that I heard what she said when she said it, because the question was how, I wrote it down, right? For the slow ones, the slow kids in the back, me. How do you plan on paying for it? That was the question, all right?
Pay for it will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it.
Hold on, let me make sure I get the full count.
It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration.
How do you plan to pay for this? That's the question. How do you plan to pay for this? We didn't ask you, how do you feel about whether or not it benefits kids or anything? The question is, listen, I get it. Great. Love kids. Awesome. Cute little toddlers running around. Some of them got snotty noses passing around, colds and flus and all of that. Cool. How do you plan to pay for this? That's the question, all right?
For the first year of a child's life, the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of...
So that's a lot of the work? So that's a lot of the work. So we just gonna skip that. All right, so maybe she's gonna address how she's gonna pay for other things. Let's get to it.
The tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. When we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increase...
Wait, you went from tax credits to homeowner, okay.
So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits,
what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, okay?
Know that there's a great return on that investment. When we increase home ownership in America, what that means...
Look at Tim. Hey, look at Tim back there. Tim can't... I didn't even realize that Tim was standing there. Tim can't relate because Tim don't participate in the real estate industry anymore. Tim is like, dang, this woman is... She having a tough time over there. Tampon Timmy. Hey, Tim is concerned over there. Tim, tuck in that trucker. Talk about it, big dog. Come on, take over. Tim, let me ask you a question, Tim, before she get over into the rest of her answer. Hey, Tim, do you feel confident following behind this woman? The Secret Service agent over there is just hiding behind the door. Look, a picture is worth 1,000 words, okay? I didn't even realize that we was going here. Homie on the left, all the way with the blue shirt, black jacket, he don't want to look into the camera. Tim is concerned. The wife is like, she going to be asking Tim about this later. Secret Service agent over there, the little girl, the door holder, we don't know what she got going on. She trying to hide behind the door because she don't want to be a part of this photo op. And Kamala Harris is just 100% fumbling. Don't let this woman go off script. Don't let her go off script, y'all. Don't let her. Let's go. Let's get to it. I'm curious as to how she's going to pay. Again, the question, because I don't want people to get. We live in a shorts world, reels. Everybody want less than 1 minute answers. The question is, how do we plan on paying for this as a country? We are taxpayers. They work for us. How do they plan on paying for it?
The tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools. Again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? How do you plan to pay for this economic policy that you're forcing on the people if you were to become president of the United States of America? Thank God we got a Congress. How do you plan to pay for this?
We're strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy. Everybody benefits, and it pays for itself in that way.
Okay, all right. Sorry. I'm not the sharpest knife in the tool shed, but I did okay for myself. I've done okay for myself. This $25,000, don't worry about it, y'all. It's going to pay for itself. Per person, for home ownership, it's going to pay for itself. Now, it's in this broad-based economy where everybody benefits, it pays for itself. Listen, economists has done the numbers. It's going to pay for itself. Child tax credit, all for itself. Earned income credit pays for itself. New housing policy and plans pays for itself. When everybody wins, everybody wins. This thing we got going on here, this new policy proposal and changes, all of this stuff, pay for itself. Don't worry about it. It pays for itself. That's the answer. It's paying for itself. Let me hear what you, I didn't put the words in her mouth. Don't sit here and say that I said it. I'm just telling you, I'm just relaying the information because you may not have been aware of it. Your algorithm is giving you something that may not be necessarily what my algorithm is giving me. So it's saying that
Strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself in that way.
let me see what the people say. Just shut up and let it pay for itself? Okay. All right, don't worry about it. What do you got to say, Wellen? B. Wellen? $115 million Trump wants out of tax money. That's the start. He loses lawsuit against us. Okay. Let me see what else the people are saying. The elves is going to pay for it? Okay. Yes, this is real life, Wyatt. Yes, this is real life. If we plant money trees, the money is going to pay for itself. No, Casey, it's going to pay for itself. Listen, the next time that y'all go to the grocery store and they say, okay, so you want to do cash, credit, or debit, just tell them, Kamala Harris said it pays for itself. Let me see if she got anything else to add into this conversation.
Vice President, CBS News has a new poll shows that you're 3 points up nationally. What's your response?
Okay, so I just wanted to help y'all to understand that not only do we have her economic policies, her 4 core pillars, but we also have a way now that it's going to pay for it, that we're going to pay for it. Nope, it's not going to cost you. Guess what it's going to cost? Itself. The next time somebody asks me for some money or the next time somebody say I owe them something, Rita literally just text me. Honest to God, on everything. Rita just text me. No cap. She said, Greg, the cabinet guy, is finished. We already paid him $6,500 for his labor. He need a check for $7,096.40. I got to take back what don't Apple allow for you to be able to take back what you said? I kid you not. That's what she said. She said, hey, I need a check literally today. That's what I picked up my phone for. She said, I need a check for $7,096.40. I said, for? She says, Greg, the cabinet guy, he finished. We already paid $6,500. Am I sending it to him or are you going to the bank? I said. She says, I'll go to the bank. I said, it's in there. Let me take that back. It's paying for itself. I got to edit this. It's paying for itself. That's what Kamala said. Tell Greg that it's paying for itself. tell him that it's going to pay for itself. I ain't got it. I don't have it. It's going to pay for itself. That is my next line. It's paying for itself. Next time my employees, hey, Anton, I didn't get my paycheck this Thursday or Friday. What's going on? Oh, it's paying for itself. Don't worry about it. It'll pay for itself. The work that you do is going to pay for itself. All right? Anyways, neither here nor there. So let me read some of these super chats so I can make sure that we all on the same page. I want to keep the people informed on what's going on with this economic policy that's going to pay for itself in that way. That's literally, she said, quote, word for word, it's going to pay for itself in that way. All right. Let's continue. Don't try it, Anton. Why? She did it. If it worked for them, that ain't never worked in the private sector, it's going to work for me. Pays for itself. The gaslighting is egregious. I agree 100%. Mara says, did you see Biden new parole in place of migrants? I didn't see it. Send it to me in an email. F says, I don't understand Trump tariff plan. I've read about articles about its negatives, but I've also looked at charts comparing him to Biden and see how they lie about him. Any suggestions as to what I read? Well, I could break it down. I could do a special segment. I'll do one tomorrow about the tariffs and exactly how it affected the American economy. Thank you, F. Sister in the building. Good morning, Mr. AB. Please get this delusional modern woman off my screen, please. We got to look at all of the candidates, sister. Noah, shout out to Noah. Noah, you looking good. I said, bought a house during the Trump administration, forced to sell during theirs. Ooh. Let's not forget, she's tie-breaking votes in the Senate. I know, and that's why the things that she voted for in the Senate needs to be evaluated also. That's coming. Delta Fox says Kamala said that everyone can compete for jobs and open businesses, including migrants. Interesting. Pretty Boy 79 is in the building, says, do you think she wins North Carolina? I don't think she's done enough to keep NC blue. Well, it depends on how ignorant the people are. Was they in room 9? Jody Pack says, I got that fireball for you. Thank you, Jody Pack. I appreciate you. Tame Chaos says, Anton, I think we missed something else. She's copying Trump yet again. Opportunity economy. I know. We got a whole segment coming up for that. Opportunity zones. This chick is so fake. We had opportunity zones. Trump worked on it with Tim Scott. Delta Fox says, don't forget that Kamala is still in office. She had 3 years to act on these ideas, and she can't even draft these now while in office, and she's pandering for votes. Tech Coach Ralph says, they asked you yesterday, how do you plan to pay for this? Yeah. I just went over it. I got you. William Livingston says, Kamala, you are in office now. What are you talking about? Facts. Tia Marie is in the building. Shout out to Tia. I love you, Tia. Tia says, so does she not realize she's campaigning against the mess she helped create and the mess she still is in VP of? Mars is in the building, she said ground beef was down 50% before the pandemic. She just admitted that we was in a better economy under Trump. You catching it. Now y'all smartening up. Y'all catching it. Deputy Mario says, did you see when Jamal Green pulled up on Roland Martin at the DNC for talking shh? Roland Martin froze like a bag of peas. I didn't see none of that. I don't believe in violence. If that was a goal, I don't believe in that whatsoever. Larry Summers says, I agree. My chick is 26. Make $150,000, has no savings, moving in together. I've had her open a Fidelity account and she will be Shout out to the Chasers. That means that she should be thanking you for being a part of the Millionaire Morning Show and the Bag Chasers. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Tom Ayer says, lives unaliving Supreme Court, Alito, Delaware to Boy Scouts. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you. Joe is in the building, says, snowball bills during Trump, 40K, refied home 5.3% to 2.25%. using the extra now to pay triple principal on my mortgage. Shout out to you. Get that principal down and then eventually eliminate your home, how much you're paying in general. Surviving now because of Trump made us debt free. All I can say is liar, liar, pantsuit on fire. Hey, shout out to you for running up the bag and making sure to capitalize off of it. High tolerance says a lot of black-owned businesses emerged under Trump. Selective memory on another note, rock bottom interest rates, record low employment, 7 million new jobs. U.S. became the #1 energy exporter under Trump. Tom says, did you know pipelines come from elimination, all boys school, 72. Hey, Tom, hold off on the super chats for a little bit, big dog. Tax Smith says, price capping always leads to bread lines as nobody wants to produce the bread at the dictated price. 100%, I agree. Molly is in the building, says, imagine leaving a communist country just for the U.S. president and VP to promote communism to you. Dallas D in the building. Shout out to Dallas. He says, if she's going after bad actors, she should start with herself and her BlackRock execs. Ooh, a lot of people not familiar with that. Jude says, Anton, if this woman ever wins presidency, please do not entertain any dumb liberals coming on your show to complain about this economy. I don't want to hear it no more. I want people to suffer. AD, we need CJ to explain to us why her policies are more effective. I'm waiting. L. Forbes says, so healthy food will no longer be available and we will move more towards processed, less expensive food, which ultimately leads to insulin. Tom is in the building, says, did you know professors without work experience are communists? Tom, put some spaces in between her, big dog, and a period, and a comma. Jay Hunter Lee says this is just a different tactic, the same result of hurting businesses like they did during COVID. Annie is in the building and says, I'm going to stop the pinging real quick so I can get to all of y'all super chats. A thumbs up would suffice. Shout out to everybody that hit a thumbs up. Zay is in the building, says, I wholeheartedly agree. As a real estate agent, I told my clients don't fall for the hype. I am a financial economist and a realtor. Her housing plan will be detrimental to our industry. Higher property taxes for all. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. Rod is in the building, says, Biden leaving the tariffs in place, he raised them. What does that tell you? Verlanda says, speaking absolute facts. Thank you, my friend. Stephen Evans in the building says, taxing businesses to pay more and setting up another bureaucratic group to cap how much they can charge for products sounds very, very dangerous for the market. It is dangerous. Tax Smith goes on to say, we would have needed the tariffs if environmentalists hadn't regulated the steel industry into the ground to try starting a refinery these days. Ain't no new businesses. Ain't no new refinery. 81 million votes says, Anton, please go over the fact that her and Biden overturned the Trump executive order on insulin prices. Scooby Don in the building says, Scamala. Mark Avery says, thank you for the knowledge transfer on the Monday morning show. Corgi Connection. Shout out to Corgi Connection. Says, new subscriber, keep speaking truth to power. Thinking about joining the Bag Chasers. If y'all want to tap into the Patreon, the link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Ask the people inside of the chat how awesome it is. Tia Marie says, what has she and Joe been talking about the last 3 years, 3.5 years? Why haven't y'all already done none of this? Did she just wake up one of these days with whack ideas? No, this is what her people, her handlers are telling her. Live Your Purpose coverage says Americans are voluntarily ignorant. It's comfort until it started to get a little bit dire. Mark is in the building, says Francioli, Mark Francioli is in the building, says my friend says that if Trump's policies, it was Trump's policies that caused inflation. He says it takes time for Biden to change policies. I disagree. Your thoughts? Biden saved the economy. Biden saved American jobs. We was all booming. We was all balling. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Trump that caused inflation, but I plan on doing an entire inflation segment because I've done multiple different inflation segments on previous shows, but I'm going to plan on doing one tomorrow, but we had to focus 100% on the policy today. So we're going to dig into that tomorrow. Make sure y'all subscribe and make sure y'all tap into the Patreon and make sure y'all come in tomorrow. Didn't Biden freeze Trump's insulin cap? Christopher Davis is in the building, says Democrats are trying to sell us benefits while hiding the cost. What sounds good is not always what is the best. Chris Hutchinson says starter homes will not be bought by buyers. They feel it's beneath them. How many 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom houses are available in regular neighborhoods, suburbs in Detroit metro area? Only investors will buy them. Only speculative investors, not me. Peter is in the building, says she wants average home prices in America to be like $900,000. Welcome to California. More knowledge says, Anton, you're a real one. Inspire more and build more. Thank you. L. Forbes says, PSLF had income thresholds built into it. You basically had to work 10 years and not make over $50,000 or you were kicked out. Wow. Black Cartwright says, I wouldn't be shocked if we got invaded. Jesus. Her economy policy is pure communism. L. Forbes says, shout out to L. Forbes showing love. I appreciate you, L. Forbes. Thank you, my friend. Tom Air, I don't know what that says, but thank you for the super chat. Tack Smith says 25,000 will increase demand, which will then create a seller's market and housing prices will skyrocket. You think you can't afford a house now? Just wait. That's why I'm investing so much in real estate, so I can take advantage of the Kamala Harris Biden economy. 25 cat credit, I smell PPP scamming all over again. Mix that in with the mountain foreclosures. This woman is dangerous. Thank you, my friend. Mika's in the building. Builders offer credits. The sellers are giving. Yeah, the builders are already offering these credits. This is nothing new. Mr. Doubtful in the building says, why you got your balance on there? Listen to her speak as I read an email from my home insurance provider informing me that my costs will be increasing by 47%. Cream pie tax credit is in the building. It's trash. All teen jobs 2024. Shout out to you. Chris Hutchison is in the building. My dog from Detroit says, out of drive right now, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom, under $150,000. You can move in with just buying some appliances sitting empty. $60,000 can afford it. People don't want starter homes because it's not cool on Instagram. I agree with you. Mika says she forgot the IRS agent in Cash Apps for anything under over $600. La Familia, I don't know what that means. Shout out to you. Secret Truth says, good morning, supporting the show. I want to get rich. We'll tap into the Patreon. Rush King 19 says, it's funny how Democrats talk about how Donald Trump is for the rich and how he wants to fill the pockets of his billionaire buddies, yet the Democrats are filling the companies with their taxes. Listen, to be Democratic is for the rich people. Y'all help us out when y'all Democrats. That's just the facts. A few more. Jeremy H says, we already know the government is real estate, a.k.a. the projects. Rod Sardine says, all I hear is word pasta. Rod is in the building, says they should make a requirement for when you run for president, you have to experience in the private sector to run for the country properly in military for combat. Distinguished Professor says, good morning from Grown Men Talking. Shout out to you. Her econ policies are straight socialism. We see how Venezuela like that. Venezuelan is a mess. And their inflation is crazy. Makes complete sense since her dad was a Marxist. Try looking. Geez, says Annie Marie. Shout out to you. Anon No 9 is in the building, says her BlackRock overlords would never allow a law that stops financial institutions from owning and operating residential real estate long term. You can't control the real estate market like that. High Tolerance is in the building, says these past 3.5 years has been a situationship. Where are we going with this? Oh, we're just going with the flow. Tax Smith in the building says, we'll print the money, silly, which causes more inflation. Donnie in the building says, refer back to Judge Joe Brown, worse salad. Duh, Anton, Jesus paid it all. Jesus paid it all. Right Insight says, Kamala giving timeshare pitches. Facts. Eric Harris is in the building, says, Cash App request pays for itself. Victor Williams says, let Jesus take the wheel. If let Jesus take the wheel was a person, it'll be Cam Cam. Ain't nothing in her head but a brisk breeze. Dallas D in the building says, sell Walmart security and pay for itself. I'm about to come out with merch. Give me a couple days. It paid for itself. Mr. AD can't wait to see it pay for itself merch. Tia Marie 2 says this super chat paid for itself. She sounds like one of those sovereign citizens that won't pay the light bill. Oh, it's going to pay for itself. Don't worry about it. They all deserve it. Kamala Harris is on Set It and Forget It. Shout out to Duran Lee, my dog. Chris James in the building, one of my rich friends. Shout out to you with the super sticker. Derek Perry is in the building, says, on the bright side, at least her economic policies will end the migrant crisis. No one flees to a communist country. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Hello, Anton, and good morning to the Chasers. Thank you to everybody that hit me off with the super chats and the cash apps. Let me read a couple of the cash apps real quickly, and then we're going to continue on with the show. Boutique Mills says Kamala is helping cause to get cheaper border staff. Also says that's why she is lowering costs for Venezuelans. And then last but not least, migrants on subsidies now get paid half hour wage today. Thank you, Boutique Mills, and I appreciate you for supporting me on Cash App. How many of y'all think that the migrants will be taking advantage of this $25,000 now? Neither here nor there. Let's continue on with the show. Trump reacted to the Kamala Harris policies and economy, and so I wanted to make sure that I address that. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's rock.
I just want to win for the country. Some people say, oh, why don't you be nice? But they're not nice to me. They want to put me in prison, just so you understand. They tell me I should be nice. They want to put me in prison. It's never happened before in the history of our country. I did nothing wrong. I think that we've done very well. I think that we're hitting a nerve. I think this is a different kind of a race. All we have to do is define our opponent as being a communist or a socialist or somebody that's going to destroy our country. I think I'm doing a very calm campaign. I mean, we're here. There's no shouting. Now, you'll say he ranted and raved, and not you, but some of you will say he ranted and raved. I didn't rant and rave. I'm a very calm person, believe it or not. If I was.
Have y'all ever been to a Trump campaign? I have never been to a Trump campaign. I was looking at it and I was researching exactly what goes on, not during an assassination attempt, but during a Trump campaign in general. And the people are saying that it's almost like family. If you show up, especially if you're a black person, hey, look, if you want to be a rock star, this is just the honest to God truth. I want to get to what he said about our economic policies, but if you want to be a rock star, all you got to do is show up to a Trump campaign and be black. That's the honest to God truth. They will be like, oh my God, you're like family. Let me invite you in. Let me give you some honey nut oats that's sitting next to Trump. I want to take care of you. Let me rub your feet. If you're a black man, look, I know a lot of y'all don't understand what we do on this show, but we go off script on a regular basis. And we talk about things that's important to the American people. And the one thing that I know is important to the American people is making sure that they loved and they liked by all, and you go where you celebrate it and not where you tolerate it. If you are a black man and you want to get you some snow bunnies, if you are a black man and you thinking about going to find a place where all of the snow bunnies are or where the women are that is absolutely feminine and they will rub your feet, they will give you a massage on the spot and cook for you and don't have no raisins in a potato salad, go to a Trump rally. They are obsessed with making sure that they shower you with love and praise. If you are, I'm trying to tell you, y'all always asking me, I can't find no good girls. I can't find no new snow bunnies out here. I'm running out of snow bunnies. Where they at, Anton? They at the Trump rallies. They at the Trump rally. You've never been more loved and showered with praise if you show up as a black man at a Trump rally. Go and see what happens. Even if you're a liberal, even if you're a Democrat, just act like you're not. Act like you're not and see what happens. Go to a Trump rally and watch what happens. Boy, you're going to be walking out there like a rock star. They're going to be hitting you off with cash apps, taking care of you, all of that. Just go and see for yourself. Go and see for yourself and see what happens. I'm going to go and I'm going to see. I'm going to record it. Oh, man, what's happening, y'all? Oh, man, I got my Make America Great hat on again. Oh, my God. Sarah, did you see him? Whew. And he's conservative? Oh, my God. We have to invite him in and make sure that we take care of him. It's popping. It's popping. Go in there with a tank top on, dancing, doing the Trump dance. It's over. You're getting all of that. Anyways, let's continue on.
Probably wouldn't be around anymore, Probably wouldn't be around. But no, I think I appreciate her advice. I have to do it my way. I ran against her, and I did it my way. People said I should maybe do it a different way. Do I regret debating Biden? So it was his request. He said we should get the debates on early, and I was willing. Don't forget, I got CNN. I got
that's true.
Jake Tapper and Dana Bash.
Yep.
They're not Trump people. They wanted to have a debate where their mics are turned off when the other person's answering the question. They gave me every single thing that I couldn't approve, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. So they got the debate on their term. About whether or not the debate should have happened would have been a better question to ask of Joe Biden, because had he not done the debate, he would still be running for president, and people would be hiding him. Let's go over some big facts.
That is a fact. If Trump did not agree to all of the things, because we remember that they had all of the greatest debaters. They had Akilah and the Bee in there. They had all of the best debaters in there training up Biden in order to try to compete on the debate stage. And he absolutely washed him. And if we had never put Trump up against him in order to showcase the fact that Biden is absolutely incompetent, then Kamala Harris wouldn't even have been in the conversation. She would have just won if Biden had won the presidency and they would have hid him, right? What we would be looking at is a Biden-Harris part 2, and then Kamala Harris would have naturally inherited the White House because Biden would have probably had to step down. And then she would have ran for another 4 years after that. And y'all would have been absolutely pissed off of that. At least at the very least now we get to look at her economic policies and laugh at it.
And some very substantial truths about where we stand as a country, because we're a failing nation because of the way it's been run for the last 3.5 years. We're a failing nation. People are coming into our country by the millions and millions and millions. We have no idea who they are, where they come from. But we're also a failing economy. Kamala Harris is a radical California liberal who broke the economy, broke the border, and broke the world, frankly. Very destructive to the entire world, because as we go, oftentimes the world goes.
And that is absolutely true. When we had the housing crisis in 2008, all of a sudden the whole world was in crisis. And so other countries have a vested interest to make sure that we are successful here in the United States of America, which is why they try to influence elections. And so, you know, people pay attention to what goes on in American politics more than sometimes Americans pay attention to what goes on in politics. And y'all should be very concerned, not only from a national level, but on a local level. And I say that all the time. Y'all should absolutely be concerned with what goes on a local level. And they absolutely broke the economy. They the ones that gave you these high interest rates. They the ones that messed up the economy. They the ones that they inherited a beautiful economy and they absolutely destroyed this whole economy. And now people can't even afford to go to the grocery store no more.
She destroys everything she touches. And if she wins, your finances and your country will never recover. You're never going to recover. Now Kamala is reportedly proposing communist price controls. She wants price controls. And if they worked, I'd go along with it too, but they don't work. They actually have the exact opposite impact and effect. But it leads to food shortages, rationing, hunger, dramatically more inflation. Their Inflation Reduction Act, by the way, was a disaster.
Yep.
It's what caused the inflation. Their inflation...
The Inflation Reduction Act actually caused the inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act actually is what caused inflation. That's insane. It's absolutely insane to think that we want another 4 years of what we've experienced over the last 3.5 years. And she's been hiding the whole time. They've been parading Biden out, but Kamala Harris has largely been silent. Do y'all realize that we didn't even start hearing from Kamala Harris until the last 3 months? That for the last 3.3 years that we've had no sightings. Zero sightings of Kamala Harris.
Reduction Act was a con job. They actually admitted that it wasn't really for inflation that they did it. They don't know why they did it, but they named it the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a very nice name. Got approved based on that. Unfortunately, people didn't understand it. I understood it. I said that's going to cause tremendous inflation, and it did, among other things like energy. She's running on the Maduro plan. We call it the Maduro plan, like something straight out of Venezuela or the Soviet Union. This announcement is an admission that her economic policies have totally failed and caused really a catastrophe for our country, and beyond that, a catastrophe in the world. I don't know if you heard the question. You've spoken about God saving your life. That I've spoken passionately about it. And something happened, because that was a miracle. I never looked that way. The audience was massive, and it was in front of me. I never have that particular graph. That was a graph on, as you all know now.
Do y'all want to know what the Inflation Reduction Act is according to the Democrats' website? According to the Democrats' website, they got a summary, 2002. All right? This is the thing that she's championing on a regular basis. I'm going to pull it up on your screen just so you guys can see it for yourself. Because I know that a lot of y'all are unfamiliar and you don't want to pay attention to what's happening in politics. But I'm going to pull it up on a screen just for the conversation, for the sake of conversation. This was the Inflation Reduction Act. All right? This is a summary of it. 2002, They said that they was going to have an historic down payment on the deficit reduction to fight inflation and invest in domestic energy production. To invest in domestic energy production and manufacturing to reduce carbon emissions by 40%. Also allow Medicare to negotiate for prescription drug prices and extend the already expanded Affordable Care Act program for 3 years through 2025. New proposal for the 2022 budget reconciliation bill will invest roughly $300 billion of your tax money in a deficit reduction and $369 billion in energy security and climate change programs over the next 10 years. Additionally, the agreement called for comprehensive permitting, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Let's just look at it. So this is what the estimates was of what they were going to invest in your money, all right? 15% in the corporate minimum tax, this is what they estimated that the revenue would raise, all right? And this is how they were going to do it. They were going to get 15% more from the corporate tax and corporations, which basically then passes costs over to the consumer. So you're the ones that's going to pay for it. So that's how, in particular, it then helps to push and raise up inflation, right? Because these corporations are not going to go down. They're not just going to completely give away their business. They're going to pass that cost over to the consumer. They said that it was going to raise $3.13 billion as a result of that. Prescription drug reform was going to raise $288 billion. And these are all estimates as indicated at the top. The IRS tax enforcement, which means that they was going to be going after y'all, was going to raise another $124 billion, which is one of the reasons why they were looking to hire, 80 something? I forgot. It was like thousands of IRS agents. And the carried interest loophole was going to raise $14 billion. And this is where they were going to spend the money. In energy security and climate change, and then the Affordable Care Act extension, which would take an additional $370 billion to make sure that they had energy security and climate change. I don't really even know what that means. And then what it was going to do was cause $300 billion plus surplus into the federal government, which we all know that that's not what happened. And so basically you were going to get taxed more, and then it was going to cost you more in order to continue to live life on a regular basis. All right. And so these was all of the acts basically in a summary, in a nutshell. And they were going to reduce carbon emissions, fight historic deficit reduction to fight inflation, allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices, lower healthcare premiums for millions of America. And that was basically telling you how they wanted to pay for it. Make the biggest corporations and ultra wealthy pay their fair share. I hate this talking point. It is so dumb. Shawn Fain say this stuff on a regular basis. And no new taxes on families making $400,000 or less. And so these were all of Biden's talking points that they gave him every single time that they paraded them out in the general public. These are Biden's talking points that they paraded. So I wanted to make sure that I pulled up the reference point for a lot of this stuff that y'all looking at as far as to speak to the talking points, right? We don't just want to take people's word for it. We want to bring it up so that you guys can see it for yourself of what the Democrats were proposing and how that affected you. So now in hindsight, how did that play out for y'all? How do y'all think that worked out for y'all? How did that work out for y'all?
I think everyone knows it very well, but it showed the great numbers on illegal immigration. It was the lowest point we've ever had. And it was one that I use less than 20% of the time. It's always at the end of the speech, not at the beginning of the speech. And it's always on the left side, not the right side. And yet, for some reason, I called it. It's not on a teleprompter. I do things largely without a teleprompter, frankly, because it's hard to hold an audience if you're going to go for an hour and a half or 2 hours reading a script. And I just talked about it, and I moved to my right, turned sharply to my right, ping. And if I didn't do that, I'm not here with you. So, yeah, God has something to do with it. It's a miracle, and God had something to do with it. And maybe it's we want to save the world. This world is going down. This world is going down. So it could be. But I believe that. I believe that we have great people. Susie is fantastic, as you know, and Chris is fantastic. They're leading it. Corey Lewandowski's coming in. He'll be, personal envoy, or he'll be at some level. They're going to be, they're doing a great job. Look, we've taken, with all of the abuse we've taken from the fake news media, all of this horrific abuse we take, And all I want to do is make the country good. All I want to do is have strong borders and good education. We want to have choice for education. So important, so many different things. As far as the personal attacks,
I don't care about all of that stuff. But basically what he's basically saying is that if you guys continue to vote for and you believe that they're going to actually make the economy better, look at what you've experienced over the last 3.5 years, A. And then B, on top of that, make sure that you pay attention to how your finances is going to be affected, because there will be no excuse and there will be no recovery for a lot of y'all. And then you're going to make your kids son husbands because you're going to try to get them to take care of you when you get older. Anyways, that's my summary on Trump's reaction to her policies. Let's continue over, and then we're going to go over into real estate. We want to get the real estate experts' thoughts on her policy updates, and then we're going to go from there. All right? Uncle Tom is in the building, says, don't forget, if the government is responsible for food, then they can put whatever they want into your food. Yeah, they can. She has said she still wants the vax to be mandatory. Yeah, a lot of people were pissed about that, and a lot of people forgot about that. They was made to take the jab. There's no excuse lifestyle. Rocky K says, what up, AD? I got a question. My vehicle currently in the shop will pay for itself. Salute to you, brother, and I'm thinking about joining the Chaser soon as well. Shout out to y'all. Go and test it out for yourself. Talk to the people in the chat and see how they think, what they think about it. Chris Mayberry says, we need to send Quentin to do a commentary at a rally. Quentin is my official emissary. He's the person that's going to be traveling to do all of the work. I get USTA, get that love at Tea Party events, correct. Shout out to Presidential. Lil Black Duck 2001 says, what are the odds that Biden steps down in October, making her the first this and that? I don't think he's going to step down. The masked man, they said that Biden is still pissed off. That's going to be a part of the tomorrow show. Trump needs to give all glory to God, leave no room for any other reason. Levite Apparel says, Mr. AD, sir, when Trump was president, all I remember is making it rain. I ain't got no money on him. So nobody awake. Wow, the sheep really loves the grass that much. Blockchain Brian is in the building. Shout out to Blockchain Brian, says, peace, bro. Number one, Trump is third all time with inflation percentage control. Biden admin third to last with 5.7% overall. Price fixing never works in a free market economy, and her plan is socialist in nature. Can y'all just imagine what life would be like if we had Trump for this 8 years? It would probably be awesome. Y'all would be getting to the bag. Wicked Nut says, please check out Gerald Ford 1989 video on what it would take to have a female president. I seen that video. I seen it. Brian Kendrick says, all Dems do for control and take the country down. Make globalist hashtag Trump 2024. Shout out to you. I appreciate you. Thank you to everybody that continues supporting to the platform. Let's move over into the next part of the show. Grant Cardone and then other realtors react to Kamala Harris's housing plan. Like, a lot of people don't like Grant Cardone because he's a syndicator. That has no bearing whatsoever on what it is that I think about his opinion. He's often right on a regular basis. And I want to get both his and the real estate market people's opinion of what they think about Kamala Harris's plan when it comes to housing. Let's deep dive into it, y'all.
Vice President Kamala Harris proposing up to $25,000 in down payment support for first-time homebuyers. But President Trump says policies like this will destroy our country.
What they're doing is a communist takeover of our country. Her plan is very dangerous because it may sound good politically, and that's the problem. And we have to be very careful, because when somebody gets up and says, we're going to give you everything, $25,000 for a house, we're going to give you all sorts of little goodies, free health care, we're going to give you everything. This is communist, this is Marxist, this is fascist.
And Kamala Harris also makes no mention of the crippling interest rates, how high they are. The current average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage is nearly 6.5%. That is.
When they took office in January, it was 2.7%. A lot of people won't even sell their houses because they had such good interest rates. In August of the 16th of August, just 3 days ago, it was 6.5%. That's a raise of 133% in interest rates alone. Let's get it. Let's get it.
It's up 133% since the Biden-Harris administration took over. CEO of Cardone Ventures, Grant Cardone, joins us now. Good morning, Grant.
Hey, good morning to you.
Good morning. How will we afford this? $25,000 if you're a first-time homeowner. We're going to pay for all illegals that come across our border, their health care. We're going to make everyone pay into this, into a single system health care. How will we afford this? Plus, they're paying for college tuition.
Yeah, Ainsley, look, Kamala Harris is either financially illiterate or she believes her audience is.
All right, so before we get into Grant Cardone's assessment and analysis, and I'm going to give you my opinion on it, which one do you think it is? Do you think that Kamala Harris is financially illiterate, or do you think that she thinks that her audience is financially illiterate? Again, let me say this for the people in the back. Do you think that Kamala Harris is financially illiterate, or do you think that she believes that that the audience is financially illiterate, and that's why she's proposing these policies, these economic policies?
This is called come on marketing. The $25,000 credit is a come on. It will not happen. The $6,000 child credit requires you to have 2 kids in the same year. That's a come on. The 4 million homes that she came out with yesterday in 4 years is absolutely impossible in this country. And to control prices is a come on. This is a marketing strategy, a gimmick where there's a promise of an offer that cannot be delivered at scale. It's typically used as a bait and switch, some kind of offer that exaggerates, that has hidden costs, exaggerated claims. And Kamala Harris is the come on queen now. That should be her new title.
What's required for a first-time homeowner? I know you told our producers earlier that it takes a lot more than $25,000.
Yeah, look, $25,000 credits are already being delivered by builders, by the way.
So you mean that the builders, the actual people that is participating in the real estate market, are already incentivizing homeowners by giving them $25,000 in credits, which if anybody is familiar or if anybody has had conversations with people as far as what creative financing is, then you know that a lot of these builders are looking forward to and is trying to move this inventory. And one of the things that they're doing in this economy in which we have 6.5% to 7% interest rates is they are giving you credits, or they're giving you $25,000 towards the purchase of a new home or more, depending on where you're buying it at and depending on what the regulations is in your particular state. So this is not something that she's proposing that the government should even get involved in the first place. The market is going to dictate what it is that you do. And the only thing that we have to do is to make sure that people are not overly participating in fraud that would lead to another economic crisis in 2008. And so he's absolutely right.
So the government doesn't need to do this. The builder is willing to do it today. But even if you could do that, the average loan today is over $400,000. The average cost of a home is $440,000. So even if you gave a credit, the first-time home buyer does not have the down payment. $32,000 on average this year is the down payment, much less the ability to maintain the house, to take care of the insurance, which could be as high as $1,000 a month, the HOA fees, and the property taxes. So while she says she'll give $25,000 away, it's like the car dealer that says, look, the payments are going to be $90 a month and no money down, but you get there and you leave with a $500 or $600 payment. It's impossible to deliver, like the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act that delivered nothing to this country. It was $3.2 trillion. That could have built 8 million homes, or it could have provided 48 million Black households with $300,000 in cash. But that didn't happen either.
So you're saying that the money would have been better spent just throwing it out the window and giving it to the people. That's how bad this legislation is. And this is why we don't want the government participating in the housing market, especially giving this money away, which I'm almost inclined to think that this money would more or less go to migrants, honest to God. In my opinion, I believe that the goal is to ultimately justify the amount of money that's going over, because they've already spent billions and billions of dollars on this migrant crisis in individual cities, and collectively it's out of control. If you really look at the cost of what it takes, or what we've spent as taxpayers, what we've spent, not the government, what we've spent as taxpayers supporting this migrant crisis is crazy. And I think that this is another play into it. Let me switch gears really quickly, because Grant Cardone, I 100% agree with everything that he said. I want to go into actual realtors. And this is a realtor that was basically breaking down exactly how this plan would affect the American people and ultimately whether it's good or not. And let's see what she got to say.
The Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign is unveiling a housing plan today. As a housing expert, someone who's been in the business for 24 years, owns my own firm, and has been heavily involved in policy issues at all levels of government, I felt obligated to bring y'all some viewpoint on what's going to be rolled out, especially since I seriously doubt that the National Association of Realtors is going to make commentary on a presidential campaign's policy.
Let me say something really quickly before we get into this. It's something about older snow hairs. Oh, listen. Let me back up for a minute. It's something about those older, slim snow hairs, when they above 50. They just do it. Like, I like all women. I like them young, the ones that was on the New York, but the younger New York TV anchors, the news anchors, they gorgeous. I like the older snow hairs. I like the dark chocolate women. Women are so beautiful as a species. They are. They are so beautiful as a species. God knew to make sure that he... Don't y'all love this show? Don't y'all love the realistic nature of this show? Molly is cracking up, talking about Anton, no. Yes, snow hairs. The above 50 snow hairs that still slim trim and be having them teacher glasses and they do like this all the time. Them older snow hair, them younger snow hair, you can keep the younger ones. The older ones, wild girls. Anyways, let's get over to what she has to say from a real perspective, because that's what we want to talk about, right?
Association of Realtors is going to make commentary on a presidential campaign's policy. The first item you're going to see talked about is a wonderful plan to call for the construction of 3 million new housing units. Now, that does sound good, and I agree that it's good to have conversation about the fact that our supply is the problem, not so much demand. However, couched in that wonderful little headline is a real problem, friends, because their goal is to have the federal government take over zoning. Zoning should only be under local control. Cabarrus County, North Carolina, where I am, is wildly different than Mecklenburg County right next door. And frankly, we don't have the foggiest idea what's best for Syracuse, New York, or Kansas City, Missouri, or even Kansas City, Kansas. There is no universal housing market. There is no universal housing plan. If the federal government gets to take over zoning, friends, here's what that looks like. That means that you may have a parcel of land that you would like to develop, and the federal government says yes or no as to what you can do. I don't like giving the federal government any control when this country was built to make sure that every zip code could have its own personality and its own leadership.
Let me stop right there because, again, I don't want the government participating in building houses. We need smaller government with less regulation and making sure that we can qualify. And as long as they manage things on their end the way that they're supposed to, the rest of it will take care of itself. And I do think that there needs to be a little bit of oversight. But then at the same time, I don't want the government involved in building homes, because then we're going to have zoning issues, then we're going to have qualification issues, and we're going to have issues determining who and who can't get it. It's a mess. It's absolutely a mess. I do not want the government telling me what I can and can't do when it comes to my investment in real estate. And then also, more importantly, because one of the things that they also said was, and I had, looked at this a little bit more extensively, was controlling the costs and putting caps on what you can charge as a landlord in a rent-controlled environment. And I don't like that either, because then that means that you can't also control my costs. You can't control the cost that's associated with it. You can't control the cost that's associated with the property taxes or the insurance, right? You can't control the cost of what it takes in order for me to even build that property in the first place. And so how can you put a cap on what I can charge because you don't know what my true costs are? When the government starts to get involved in housing, it's an issue. Every single time when the government starts to get involved in what we can do and what we can't do from a financial perspective, it's an issue. I can't take it. I don't like it. It's just bad all the way across the board.
So yes, we need new housing, but not at the expense of local controls. The second thing being proposed is, of course, rent control. And that sounds good if you're in a rental and you feel like you're paying too much. Friends, the way that you solve the high cost of rent is to add more rental units, but not rental units by hedge funds, which has been the plan for the last few years. What we need are more mom and pop investors that are able to make local decisions about zoning and local decisions about their land so they can provide more units. When you put in rent controls, that caps what I as a landlord can charge for rent. That sounds okay if you're the consumer, but friends, it's been tried in all kinds of markets, all kinds of cities, and it does not work because as an investor, I'm not going to put my money into something where I can't control the market conditions. I mean, I can never control market conditions, but I can't respond to market conditions. Pay attention. Every city that has rent controls loses rental units. What happens when you lose units? That's right. You have another supply issue. This is not good. It is terrible. And by the way, if you're a tenant, you can get trapped in your unit because
nobody wants to be in a market where they're then controlled by rent or whatever the controls are by the federal government or the local municipality. Because why would I participate in an environment where I can't control my costs or I can't respond to market conditions? People in California is trying to sell their properties at a record rate because they don't want to participate in that market. People in New York, they don't want to participate in the rental market, and so that's when you start to see supply and demand issues, and you also tend to see people trying to get into the buying and selling market instead of getting into the rental market, which is often at times the pathway that people ultimately get into as far as them ultimately getting into home ownership, right? They don't want to participate in a market where they're renting out to people and then they can't respond to market conditions. I don't want to be controlled by the federal government or my local municipality in that way. Because if that's the case, then I'll just get out of the rental market altogether and I'll just develop properties and then sell them at a crazy price based off of the rent or based off of the market conditions. Because I know that supply and demand is always going to be an issue and housing is a problem. And as we grow the population, people are going to need more places to stay and they just going to need it at a lower rate. And so that's when competition starts to come into play. And again, like she said, not based off of hedge funds, but mom and pop investors. Most people that are participating in the rental market, are 1-2 property owners outside of the hedge funds. And the only reason the hedge funds got into it is because the market conditions was so bad that they had to participate in the industry where it's safer to park their money. And they know real estate was the best way to do it. So they started buying up all of the real estate because the market was too volatile and the interest rates were so bad. So dumb, bro.
Just say you and your family have a large rent-controlled unit, and then those wonderful children grow up and move away. I feel you. Well, now you're in this giant unit, but you can't afford to move because you're trapped by your low rental cost.
That's what's happening in New York.
A young family down the hall wants to move into your larger unit, but they can't because they're trapped too, and they're just out of space. It is not a good way to control a market.
And most of the time, people hold on to those units forever because they never, ever want to move out of it, because it's a rent-controlled environment, and then the landlord is stuck with that particular unit.
Rent controls are bad. What we should have instead are better local zoning decisions. Now, the third thing in this plan is that there's going to be an offer of free money, down payment assistance, help those first-time buyers get in a house. I love down payment assistance, especially when it's done by tax credits, when it's done by bond money approved by voters. Y'all, if the federal government wants to hand people money for buying houses, that's what causes inflation. How is it going to be that we can get y'all educated on this? Every time the government starts printing money, as young people say, it goes brrr. When the Fed prints money, that causes inflation. And so when you add $25,000 in free money to a house, you just drove the cost up by $25,000.
No, you're going to drive it up by even more because more people are going to want to participate in it.
I just wish that when any political person rolls out a housing plan, they talk to some of us in housing first.
And it doesn't sound like she talked to anybody. It don't sound, and honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that most of that money is going to go to fraud and scammers and migrants in the first place. I don't even think that it's going to affect people in a positive way. I don't think the people are even going to get control of that money, even if it was something that they can do in the first place. I don't think it's something that they can do, but let's just say hypothetically that they do it. It's going to go to the people that are finessing. It's not going to actually go to consumers. And we know historically when the government participates in something, the cost of it is 20 times more than what they say it is. It gets passed on to the taxpayers, and then they say rich people need to pay their fair share. Anyways, let me read some of these super chats, and then we're going to move over into the next segment of the show, which is Shawn Fain and layoffs. Absolutely. J Dubs in the building says, I honestly think Trump learned a lot from his first term. I think he would be even better this time. I agree. Sportsaholic is in the building. Trump for 8 straight years would have been amazing. Some people will never wake up, let the keep sheep grazing. I think God's saying that we need to be punished as a result of it. She believes our audience is illiterate. Most of these people are living conservative lives, but preaching liberal lives. I don't know about Tim Walz. I think he's living real liberal in this house. They doing FHA 3% down and getting charged a huge PMI. Private mortgage insurance. Always try to put down 20%. Always try to put down 20%, y'all. 100%. And pay attention to property taxes. That's going to be your biggest cost too. AP 1804 says, hey, Anton, I know I'm off script, but I want to move out of my brother's house and basement soon. As a 35-year-old, should I get an apartment, condo, or a house? Well, can you afford it? There's too many factors in there. How much money do you have? How much debt do you have? If you have any debt, stay in your brother's apartment, big dog. I hate to tell you, I hate to give you that disappointing news, but it's not disappointing. You need to change your lifestyle, stop tricking off on these hoes, get 2 jobs, pay off the debt, get you 20%. And then I don't like condos. I don't like condos because they come with homeowners association fees. They come with HOAs. So I'm not a fan of condos. I'm okay with apartments. I think that if you get in an apartment, then you probably should get a roommate anyway because you can lower the cost. But it depends on how much money you make, and it depends on what you do for a living. I prefer for you to buy a single-family home. And if you buy a single-family home, get 20% down and then make sure you can afford the payment as far as a 15-year mortgage, not a 30-year. Your 15-year mortgage will be cheaper. Don't go in an HOA environment. I'm not a fan of that. And then on top of that, try to pay it off as soon as possible. But if you don't have no debt, then that enables you to be able to pay it off as soon as possible so that you can reduce the amount of money that you're paying in interest to the bank. Shout out to you. That's a great question. James Early says, thank you, Anton. Over here in Hawaii, getting ready to take friends to go surfing. Oh, that sounds great. I think I'm going to go to Hawaii for the winter break this year, for the holidays. Love USA says exactly just for the fact that parents will still vote for Kamala Harris who want to mutilate your children without their parents' consent. It's already close to being a definition of insanity. Thank you, my friend. Kid Chameleon is in the building, says government and housing, go cities and slums. It's going to be bad. Tax Smith says rent control leads to slumlords for the same reason that price caps leads to bread lines. That's true. I like that. That's a really good assessment. Ardilla Squirrel is in the building and says, do you think that Democrats have caused problems with inflation just to be able to come in and give more? Probably. I wouldn't doubt it. Well, we all know that they cause problems with inflation. I'm not sure what the goal was, and that's really the question that we have to ask ourselves. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get in these layoffs. Let's spend 10 minutes on this. Shawn Fain, I warned y'all. I warned y'all. I warned y'all. I warned y'all. I told you. I told you. I warned you, and I said, listen, you are seriously going to shoot yourself in the foot. When it's holding the UAW and we seen Biden go over there to try to get the UAW's endorsement and stuff, Shawn Fain is now running around and saying, oh my God, Stellantis is a problem over there. He released a recent Facebook advertisement because he knows that he's probably going to be speaking at the Democratic National Convention. And so Shawn Fain, the president of UAW, who I believe is in bed with the Harris and Biden administration, ran around and he was celebrated amongst all of the people. And instead of him working with the companies and ensuring that both, the negotiated thing is tied in with the performance of the company, similar to how CEO pay is doing, and they get incentives and then they get raises and stuff like that. Instead of him working with the company, what you're starting to see is layoffs on a mass scale. I'm in Detroit. I know people. I'm related to people whose plants are going down to one shift and they are basically creating permanent layoffs and they running amok. And as J.D. Vance say, and as a lot of these politicians say, and they're absolutely right, when you start to see layoffs in Michigan, everybody should be concerned.
Remember, this is the woman who voted to preserve NAFTA, to extend NAFTA, the very trade deal that sent American auto jobs to Mexico by the tens of thousands and turned American dreams into nightmares.
Let me stop there for a second so I can educate people on NAFTA, because a lot of people are not familiar with NAFTA. When you see our country's jobs, when our jobs were leaving, and a lot of y'all may be too young, or you wasn't a part of the workforce, or maybe you was super young and you wasn't familiar because you never did the history lesson. Here in Michigan, the history was right in front of our face, because most of our grandfathers or our fathers and things like that, my father in particular was brought up here by his father, and his father's name was Aurelius. And Aurelius was from Dawson, Georgia. And so the majority of my family was from the South, down in the South. And Aurelius came up to Michigan because this is where all of the auto jobs are. So my grandfather, who has now passed away, came up here, got an auto job, and then sent for my father and his uncle and his wife, right? And then they came up here and they joined him, and times were great, right? So they all came up here to get auto jobs, which eventually led to him being able to fund his construction company and stuff like that, and so on and so forth, right? And so we moved to Detroit, or they moved to Detroit, and this was way before they had me. And if you know anything about the auto industry back then, it was booming. It was a pathway. Really, it was the foundation of America. The steel industry and the auto industry was the backbone of America. And so most of our uncles and our grandfathers and things like that, we knew somebody that worked in the auto industry. And it's not far-fetched that you had somebody in your family that can give you what we called A-plan papers. Now it's called employee pricing. They changed the name of it. But what's called A-plan papers, because if you work for the company, then you basically can give A-plan papers to a family member, which would allow for you to get a discount on how much you can finance a vehicle for, right? And so if you are familiar with that time, right, because my father, obviously, and his father before him, and even if you wasn't a part of Ford, Chrysler, or GM, the big three, you worked at an auto supplier. So you can be at a Lear, you could be at some other auto supplier that was then dependent on the auto industry for them to thrive. I worked in the steel industry. I worked at auto suppliers, and I worked at the steel industry. I worked at what was Rouge Steel, which then turned into, I forgot what the name of it was. Severstal. It got bought out by a Russian company, but they still had parameters and having to keep jobs here in the United States of America. Then it turned into something else, TK, something else, I don't know. And if you go down to Gary, Indiana, in which I've toured Gary, Indiana, and I've looked at their steel mills and stuff like that, it's largely a ghost town, and it's been absolutely decimated by what happened during the Bush and the Clinton administration as far as them giving our jobs away. So I'm giving you a little mini history so you can understand where I'm coming from and why this is so passionate for me. And so the union then unionized way back then because they were advocating for safety and workers' rights and the ability to be able to negotiate, right? And so they were actually a good thing. It was good for the time because it was an industry that was largely unregulated. And so they was paying people what they wanted to, and they was firing people and all of this stuff. And so the union was created for the worker, and it was a good thing because it allowed for us, us middle classers, a path and comfort and wages, wage growth and safety and fairness inside of it and all of this stuff, right? But the union largely became a nuisance because by the time that I got into it, in the early 2000s in the steel industry, it was a place that was basically protecting all of the ones that was the worst of the workers. If you was out there late all the time, they can negotiate. I seen chicks busting it down for their union reps for a real one. That's a fact. I don't want to name no names, but it largely became a thing that was in cahoots with the company, and it didn't benefit the worker. And a lot of times they just protected, and they spent the majority of their time helping people that should have been fired a long time ago. And so the union then became a nuisance. Then came 2008, and jobs just exponentially left. Even though it was already being pared down by technology, jobs just absolutely got decimated. Flint used to be one of the most thriving economies in the United States of America, and they absolutely got decimated. Detroit got decimated during the 2008 crisis. A lot of places just absolutely got destroyed. Gary, Indiana, a lot of places was just suffering, right? And so when we think about and we talk about negotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement, and the reason that I want to give you this information is that I want to empower you. I want to educate you. I want you to know what you're talking about when you go into these debates with people that don't know anything about what they're talking about. The Clinton administration, the Bush administrations, those administrations, mainly the Clinton administration, gave away American jobs for short-term prosperity. They sold your jobs away. They allowed for our manufacturers to basically take jobs over to China, to outsource our jobs over to Mexico, to give a lot of our jobs over to Canada. And so what was built was called the North American Free Trade Agreement. And so when they say that the majority of the cars are made here in the Americas, they're basically saying Mexico, United States, Canada. So they don't have to say it's being made in the United States of America. They saying that it's made in North America. It's made over here where all of this is connected. Canada, Mexico, all of that. And so what these companies then did was not only did they ship jobs over to India, to Taiwan, to China in order to manufacture a lot of this stuff. If you look at the price sheet and it shows you exactly what percentage of the parts are made here in the United States of America and how many is made in is made overseas or in a different country. A lot of times they include Mexico and Canada in that. So it may be assembled here or it may be assembled over in Mexico and then it's shipped over here in the United States of America, but it still does not benefit American manufacturing and jobs. So when people then say, man, I love Clinton and all of this stuff, Clinton manufactured the housing crisis and Clinton ultimately manufactured giving away North American jobs. So when Trump then came into office, he wanted to stop the bleeding. And one of the things that he did was that he renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement instead of Kamala Harris and the Biden administration just extending it by default. And what foreign countries then started to do, including China, was that they would then start to ship in the majority of their cars into Mexico, assemble them in Mexico, and then say that they was made here, and then ship them in the United States of America, and then they would get past whatever it was that was negotiated as far as the North American Free Trade Agreement. Well, Trump sought to stop all that, and that's what he did. Not only did he institute the tariffs on China in order to set the foundation for American jobs, but he also renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement with Canada and Mexico in order to stop them from having a competitive advantage for Americans, which would then incentivize American auto manufacturers and manufacturers in general to make vehicles and to make stuff here back in America. So he set the foundation that Biden Harris was supposed to run on, and they fumbled it. They fumbled it. And the UAW, instead of working along with the Trump administration, which he saved their jobs, decided that they wanted to partner with and sell out to the Biden administration just so that they can continue to do this identity politics thing and to stay remaining Democrat, knowing that the majority of their members was going to suffer as a result of it. So now when you see Stellantis and all of these other companies starting to lay off because they cannot control costs and they can't compete with other auto manufacturers, including BYD, who is going to be coming into the United States of America and buying up all of these companies, now you can see why it's important for you to vote the way that you do, because you're not just doing it for your current circumstances, you're doing it for your children. You're doing it for your children. The United States of American auto manufacturers, including Ford, Chrysler, and GM, they even stopped making cars in the United States of America over the last 10 to 15 years. That's why they got rid of all of the cars. That's why you don't see no Ford Fusions. You don't see no Focuses being sold here. You don't see no Malibus. You don't see none of those cars being made here in the United States of America. They got rid of it. They got rid of the Chevy Cruze. They got rid of all of that stuff. And only the cars that are made here, either they're luxury cars to where they can have a markup on them, or they're made in another completely different country and they shipped here in the United States of America. That's why Buick is largely made in China. It's a Chinese company now that is now shipping cars into the United States of America, and you're buying it because you're saying, well, it's an American company. No, it's a company that profits, but then ultimately the majority of the jobs is made over in China. Buick is largely a Chinese company. That is a fact. The majority of these cars and stuff is assembled and made for the Chinese market and adapted here for the United States of America. And so when JD Vance says, because he can't go into this large lesson, right? When J.D. Vance says they voted to extend the North American Free Trade Agreement, Trump went in and renegotiated it because he did it on the behalf of the United States auto manufacturers and the people that depend on those jobs and the people that are creating jobs in the United States of America. But because you're so ignorant, you will then say, well, Trump is racist. Trump is racist. Instead of realizing that he's the one that's actually saving your job. He's not trying to control the manufacturing process. He's incentivizing manufacturers to create jobs and to create vehicles here, good paying American jobs, which ultimately spurs the American economy because you keep more money flowing within our own country. But people are ignorant. And so you listen to a Shawn Fain that gives you these talking points, or you listen to these people that's on TikTok and stuff that don't know nothing about economies and they don't know nothing about policy, don't know anything about laws. They can't break down exactly what happened in past presidential cabinets and things like that of how they sold out your country, but then you lean on them in order to continue to give you the thing that's worse for you when you're voting against your own best interest. So when he put the tariffs in place that Biden and Harris continued to extend and they didn't get rid of the tariffs, they did that for a reason because they know that he had a good idea. And they would like to take advantage of the fact that he renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement. And so that then they start to say, well, we created American jobs. No, Trump set the foundation that you guys couldn't capitalize off of because you don't understand economic policy. I'm supposed to be playing this video, ain't I? I'm sorry, y'all. Let me go ahead and play this video. I'm sorry.
She's supported by the tens of thousands and turned American dreams into nightmares. She supported these EV mandates that tax you, took your money and sent it to electric vehicles that are made in China instead of made right here in the state of Michigan, destroying thousands of Michigan auto jobs in the process. Kamala Harris now is standing here in Michigan asking us for a promotion. I think it's time to say to Kamala Harris, no thank you, you are fired.
And that is Ohio Senator and Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance campaigning in Byron Center, Michigan yesterday. He's blaming VP Kamala Harris for sending auto jobs to China and to Mexico. Vance's comments come as Stellantis has plans to lay off nearly 2,500 workers at the Warren Truck Assembly plant in Michigan. That's currently builds an older version of the Ram 1500 pickup truck.
And they have no new investment, zero new investment. And I warned y'all that this was about to happen. I warned y'all that this was about to come. They are going to start laying off people at a mass rate. I almost don't even want Trump to even win this election. And it's not because I don't think that he would be best for the economy. I don't think that y'all would appreciate him. I don't think that y'all would appreciate him. I think that we need to suffer. I'm going to get into that shortly.
Joining me now is Michigan Congressman John James, member of the House Foreign Affairs and Energy and Commerce Committees. He's also an Iraq War veteran. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, and thank you.
You keep saying I thought that Buick was American in hell. Buick is American. It's owned by General Motors, but it's largely made for the Chinese market. And so the majority of the parts and the majority of Buick itself is manufactured and shipped over here to sell in the American market, but it's largely supporting Chinese jobs. It's supporting jobs that's not here in the United States of America. It's sold here to you as a consumer, but it's made for the Chinese market. And so, yes, it is a GM product, but it's ultimately sold to you that's being manufactured overseas. It's not being built over here in the United States of America.
Again for your service to our great country. I want to get your take on what's going on in Michigan here, because you've got a real change of sentiment. Whereas we used to see all the auto jobs churning about in Michigan, it's totally changed now. You've got so much production happening in China because of the electric vehicle push. What are your constituents saying about this?
Very, very concerned. But look about this, Maria. Michigan is the election center of the universe in 2024 because we are an economic bellwether for the rest of the country. When you start seeing layoffs in Michigan, you better be concerned around the rest of the country, because recessions come to Michigan first, they last the longest, and they hit us hardest because the economic policies of these Democrat extremists are pushing our jobs not just to other states, but to other countries. We've seen this movie before. We saw it in the recessions in the 80s. We saw it with NAFTA in the 90s. We saw it with the recession in the early 2008. And we're seeing it again now. These types of things, that losing 2,500 jobs in Warren, jobs that we should be doing here.
Not a manufacturer's choice. See, this is how ignorant some of us are. It's not a manufacturer's choice. It's not, because in order for them to compete against other manufacturers that's making parts over in the other parts of the world, you can't compete. If it costs you 4 times to make the part here in the United States of America because legislation allows for your competitor to go over to China to make it over there because they've incentivized them to be able to do so, then you have to do the same thing. Otherwise, either your company is going to go out of business or you're going to get swallowed up. So your legislative policies absolutely play a role in what your competitors do, which is one of the reasons why China forced American companies to partner with them in order to do business in their country. It's not as simple to say, oh, no, that's just a manufacturer's choice. It's not. Because people don't want to pay 2 and 3 times the vehicle price just to say it's made here in America. The only thing that they care about is they thoughtless. They don't care about American jobs. They care about what's going to affect them right now. So the role of the government is to protect the American economy by incentivizing and preventing unfair practices in that way. And so you can't let other countries, you can't give it away and let other countries then say, and we know why they gave it away. We know what the incentive is. You can't give it away and then let other countries completely control what goes on here in the United States of America through bad legislation. I don't know why y'all don't understand that. Y'all, honestly, y'all gotta go and research and do your history on what these policies are. I know that's too much to ask. I ain't even gonna say all of that. Let's just go. Let's rock.
These are the types of things that happen when the Biden comply or die. It's forced automakers into survival mode. And that's the kind of thing that not just hurts the auto workers, right? Most of them who will be laid off will be junior auto workers, the younger folks for whom Santa Claus will be visiting right before Christmas. Yeah. It's going to be hurting suppliers. It's going to be hurting the bar and grill directly across the street, and they're going to have to lay off workers. This has a massive impact on Michigan's entire economy, and Kamala Harris is responsible for it.
Well, I think this is a really good point that you're making, because within Michigan and certain communities, the auto sector drives a lot of the activity. So it's got lots of legs in different industries because they're all basically surviving on the strength of the auto sector. So it has a big impact, Liz Peek. Jump in here, because this is a serious economic issue, and we're seeing those cracks in the auto sector first in Michigan, Liz.
Well, yeah, the government has made it almost impossible for these companies to move forward because of the EV mandates and all the other problems. But, Congressman, I want to ask you about the relationship between the United Auto Workers leadership and their membership. It seems to me Donald Trump did pretty well with UAW workers in 2016, probably not quite so well in 2020. Shawn Fain just came out and basically sued Elon Musk and Donald Trump on pretty ridiculous charges that they were talking up firing strikers and stuff. How do you read this tension? I mean, is this are we going to see the auto workers turn out for Donald Trump in this election or not?
Well, first, good morning, Liz. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you, too.
Yeah, and second, Shawn Fain is trying to save his own skin. As part of the legacy of UAW leadership, among many most recent presidents who have been popped for corruption, Shawn Fain has had a very bad past few months with those probes coming in from D.C. of all places, looking at allegations of corruption, but also losing in Alabama, and now this where losing jobs potentially to Mexico with the layoffs in Warren and overflow work going to Saltillo. Shawn Fain is looking for anything. He's grasping at straws because he recognizes that his own union population isn't aligned with him. Shawn Fain has sold his auto workers out for environmental extremists and the Biden agenda. This is something that does not work for auto workers, and auto workers know it. Auto workers recognize not just that their jobs are going to other states and other countries, but they're less able to take care of their families long term. And the younger auto workers, the one who's just got started, those are the ones who are going to be hit hardest by the layoffs, the ones who have young families. They know that Shawn Fain's leadership is not working for them, and Shawn Fain is pointing the blame anywhere else he possibly can.
And that's a fact. And I think that, and it's funny because I believe that I got word and I needed to do a little bit more research on that, but I'm going to be paying attention to the Democratic National Convention all week. And so I'll be, covering that on this channel, obviously, and on the Anton Daniels channel. But Shawn Fain already sold y'all out. I told y'all that he sold y'all out. And so I told y'all to make sure that y'all get everything that y'all can right now, because some of y'all, a lot of y'all are going to suffer as a result of how it is that he aligned himself with this Biden-Harris administration and these policies that's ultimately going to continue to send y'all jobs overseas. And he villainized everybody except for himself. And now he's also involved in a probe based off of corruption, and it's just going to continue to go downhill from there. So hopefully y'all get a little bit of insight from that. And I educated y'all on what to look for when it comes to having these conversations on why tariffs, North American Free Trade Agreement, jobs, economic policy, it all plays a part in your success. Jamal Park says, is an HSA account only an option when you're established? Health savings account. It seems like you pay higher cost premiums when you can only do if you have the capital to do so. Can you give me some insight? So HSA accounts, all right, so it's not only an option when you're established. If you want to put yourself in a position to where you don't, HSA accounts a lot of times is also a vehicle for investment, because it allows for you to put more money up into things that ultimately make you more money. But on top of that, a lot of people use it as an investment vehicle. But on top of that, it's supposed to be established for if you need to have an account that's specifically designated for anything that you have to pay for health related, okay? So a lot of people use it as an investment vehicle, but also a lot of people are saying that, well, I can lower the amount of money that I'm paying in my healthcare coverage because I don't really get sick that often, or I'm very, very young, or whatever like that. So it's not that it seems like you pay higher costs and premiums when you can only establish the capital to do so. No, a lot of people select their healthcare coverage and then they supplement it with the health savings account, which a lot of people also use as an investment vehicle also. So hopefully that answers your question. That's what it's supposed to be for. That's what people leverage it for. Can you do a video on the pros and cons of an HOA? I can. I was talking to Rita about HOAs the other day when I went to go and look at the property that I bought. And I was like, well, I'm glad I ain't buying an HOA area. Truth with S says, or ES says, Trump rallies are fun. Yes, it's like family. We gonna be there. It's gonna have a good time. Pharaoh K. Lamk says, I sent this with a card attached to an empty bank account. Mama was right. It paid for itself. # the Chasers. Shout out to my dog Pharaoh in the building. Alan is in the building, says, check, cash, or charge. I'll pay for itself. The new standard reply checkout. Y'all about to be getting me in trouble. Don't y'all be getting me in trouble. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. We going overtime today, for real. I be trying to keep this under 2 hours. But, when we got to cook and it's on a Monday, we got to cook. And it's so funny because I actually opted out. Of another story that I was going to do. I cut that one off and I said that we're going to do it tomorrow. But we got one more thing that we need to go over before we finish, all right? Tulsi Gabbard. So the reason that I want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, and we only going to spend 10 minutes on this and then I'm going to get y'all on y'all way. Tulsi Gabbard is Kamala Harris's kryptonite. A lot of what they're trying to do is they're trying to bury and not talk about, but thank God we have the internet and we don't just have regular media anymore. They're trying to bury and they're trying not to talk about how Kamala Harris got absolutely washed. So for those of y'all that may not be familiar, and I plan on reviewing this on the Anton Daniels channel a little bit closer to the election so I can tell y'all what y'all really dealing with. Kamala Harris obviously didn't participate in a primary in this election. So she was handed to us from the Biden administration, which word in his camp and what's being reported is that he's still angry at the fact that he had to step down because he felt like he was the best candidate. But Kamala Harris participated in the 2019 primaries. Now, the 2019 primaries was to unseat Donald Trump, who was running for a second term. And what happened was she got absolutely washed by Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard exposed her as a weakling, as a fraud, and she called her out on her BS. And so Tulsi is Kamala's arch nemesis, which they're saying that Tulsi is now being monitored by the feds and TSA and all of that. But what I found out recently is that Tulsi is actually being recruited and is now a part of the Trump's debate cabinet, meaning that they're leveraging her and her ability to continue to expose this woman in a debate by having her participate as a sparring partner for Trump himself. And they say that the Harris campaign is absolutely terrified as a result of it. But here's Tulsi and her thoughts. I see her with the gray hair. She looking like Storm out there. Here's Tulsi and her thoughts about the radical record of Kamala Harris.
Trump landed a one-punch knockout with Biden, and he's looking to do it again with Kamala. The first debate, scheduled for September, Trump agreed to 3. Kamala so far has only agreed to 1. And here's how they're prepping. Kamala's doing her debate prep at Howard University with the same method actor Hillary used in 2016. It's a guy with a long tie who interrupts her constantly. Trump's not using method actors. He's bringing in Tulsi Gabbard, who single-handedly ended Kamala's presidential run in 2019, remember?
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Trump debate.
She said way more than that. She said way more than that, but that was the highlights. But she absolutely destroyed, and nobody was checking for Kamala Harris, but that's why they call her a DEI pick. That's why they say that she was picked based off of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they know that we got short memories. And so the only thing that we care about is skin color. We don't care about debate performance. We don't care about her record. We don't care about what it is that she's did over the last 3.5 years. We don't care about whether or not she was the border czar. We don't care about any of that. The only thing that we care about is whether or not Kamala Harris is a black woman and if she is the opposite of what Trump represents as good for this country. But here's Tulsi.
Prep specialist and former 2020 presidential candidate, Tulsi Gabbard. All right, so Tulsi, you really zeroed in on Kamala Harris. What was it about Kamala that opened you up for that kind of attack?
Really, Jesse, it was exposing her for her hypocrisy. She is a typical politician who will say one thing and do another. Rules for thee, but not for me. And that's a reflection of exactly how she is going through this debate prep. She's got her pollsters surrounding her. They're telling her word for word exactly the things that she needs to say, the lines she needs to memorize so that she can act and put on a big show in this debate. And it's such a huge contrast. You saw once she was confronted and challenged a little bit on her hypocrisy, she didn't respond very well. And I think that points to the big contrast that the American people will see in this upcoming debate. President Trump is real. He is not a politician by any means. I don't think we want another typical politician who is choosing their every word very carefully. He's a real person, a strong leader, a strong debater who has strong views on issues. And you don't have to guess where he stands on those issues, and you don't have to guess about what he will do because he's got 4 years of a record to stand on of success.
This woman is so well spoken. I could see why. If I was on the Democratic side, if I was Kamala Harris and them, or maybe you know how women are. Women are spiteful, right? Women will feel some type of way when they have to deal with the woman that, you know what I'm saying, took their husband. Instead of partnering with her and becoming sister wives, you know what I'm saying? Instead of partnering and saying, you know what? What's best for you is what's best for me. Let's both of us benefit as a result of this, and we don't have to fight each other. We can leverage each other. Instead of the Kamala Harris campaign recruiting Tulsi and say, hey, how did you expose me and how did you destroy me so that I can better prepare myself? They said, we not messing with her and we don't want to talk about her and we don't even think Trump is going to be on the ballot in the first place because we tried to put all these charges on him and throw him in jail. And so what did Trump did? He did what any good entrepreneur and what any good businessman would do. He went and got the person that ultimately ended her career in the first place, or at the very least, ended her presidential run before she was given to us as a DEI pick. And this woman is absolutely well-spoken, and she spoke facts. What she said was, listen, Kamala Harris is nothing more than a paid actor. That's it. She is a person that reads from the teleprompter. She has no original thought on her own. They give her talking points, but Trump is very much just a businessman. He's a strong debater, and he's not a politician traditionally. He is a man of the people and is ultimately trying to do the thing that's in the best interest of the United States of America. And she's going to have problems. Regardless of what they put on her teleprompter, she is going to have problems when she got to answer for herself and they ask her questions off the cuff, because you've seen what happened when that reporter asked her how she was going to have to pay for all of these economic policies that she said that she wanted.
So that's what happened with Biden. They spent a week at Camp David pumping him full of memorized lines in between lasagna runs, and he couldn't keep it together. He couldn't memorize it, and then he couldn't deliver it, and he fell apart. Trump just boom, boom, fell apart. You're saying Kamala Harris is similar? They're basically phony hypocrites who have to memorize things in order to get by because they can't be honest with what they believe. So Trump just has to come out, as you did, hit her square between the eyes and she crumbles?
Yeah, you know, President Trump has shown through 2016, 2020, 2024 with his debate with Joe Biden, he's a phenomenal debater. He knows his record. He knows the issues. If I can be helpful anywhere, it is sharing the tricks that Kamala Harris will try to use to lie to the American people and try to make them forget what her true radical record is. You know, we just saw she laid out her big economic plan, and it was a very memorized speech. The moment she was challenged by a reporter, she said, "It's a mistake for you to ask me what it costs. Don't ask me what this is going to cost." This is what we will see more of from Kamala Harris.
It's a mistake to ask me what it costs.
Yeah.
Wow. That's Kamala Harris for you.
But I think that Tulsi, y'all said that she looked like Rogue. I'm going to read those super chats shortly. I think that Tulsi is absolutely correct, and I think that she got her number. I would prefer to see Tulsi run on the Democratic side. Actually, I wouldn't, because I want Trump to win, and I think that Tulsi is a more formidable opponent. I would prefer, if I had to have a president between women, that I would take Tulsi over Kamala 10 times out of 10, because obviously she's much more educated and she's her kryptonite. But that is Tulsi and her thoughts on it, and then we'll continue to give you guys insight and information on what is going on with this presidential election, because you guys have to stay informed. And I feel like if I don't do it, then you guys are not going to embrace it. But she is right. I think that Trump has a leg to stand on, because we have a history or a time. And this is the part that I'm trying to figure out. Why do everybody just try to forget the best time of their lives of what was happening in 2016 through 20? Why are people ignoring that? Like we didn't see how things played out and how well our lives are. We have a strong sample size to see exactly how things played out during 2016 through 2020, but we act like we just ignored it completely. And it's funny, because I remember when Obama was handing over the reins over to Trump, and he was acting like, oh my God, it's about to be such a disaster in the United States of America. And we thrived. We thrived. We ran up a bag, we won, and we actually fixed a lot of the problems that allowed for us to be successful even within our own communities. So that is what's going on with Tulsi. Let me read a few more of these super chats. We cooking up on the Millionaire Morning Show today. Thank y'all. Make sure y'all get the likes up. Janice says, I greatly appreciate these political and economic deep dives. I've learned so much. Thank you, Janice. And it ain't nobody that can do it like I do it. That's a fact. This is the greatest morning show on earth. Can you quick explain to any UAW member who thinks that Fain supporting Harris means nothing and Trump is the one who kept us afloat? Because I'm tired. I broke that down during the whole show. That last segment right before the Tulsi Gabbard one, we'll talk about it tomorrow morning. Trust me, because they're going to be speaking at the Democratic National Convention. Sister in the building says, Mr. AD, is an HSA a pretext for us W-2 employees? I don't think so. It might be. I'm not sure. Let me go and double check that. That's a great question. I'll go and double check that. I don't know if that's a pretext thing, but it might be. Grinder says, thank you for the super sticker. I'll come back and answer that for y'all tomorrow, or y'all can just Google it, but I'm not sure if HSAs are pretext. It might be. Tulsi looking like Rogue from X-Men. Tulsi looked good on there. Marriage, Politics, and Sports says, I'm a big Tulsi fan. She is one stoic woman, and she respects what it means to go to war and the human cost of it. Shout out to Tulsi. And BizQ says, Trump first ran for prez under the Reform Party. Shout out to BizQ. I appreciate y'all. And thank you to everybody that supported the platform. You guys are absolutely awesome. I love y'all. Let me just double check something real quick. All right, cool. We all good. All right, so listen, we got the Q show tonight. That's going to be popping. I'm going to stay aware. And so it is. All right, so it is. It's a pre-tax. All right, so it's pre-tax. So they did give me the additional information. It is pre-tax, all right? So shout out to the chat for letting us know that. All right, y'all. So listen, I'm going to stay tuned with what's going on with the Democratic National Convention. I'm also going to be giving y'all updates on money. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're not a part of the Patreon, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Tiege Hanley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. Thank you, Tiege, for continuing to sponsor the platform. And then last but not least, we're going to tap into the Q show tonight. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for continuing to rock with me. And then make sure that you support each other, love each other, and hold each other down. Until tomorrow or until tonight and then tomorrow, share this with your family and friends and tell them that this is the greatest morning show on earth. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace.